Hey, good evening, everybody. How you guys doing? Doing all right? All right. So I'm going to let everybody sort of chat tonight. This is a review session, so I don't have prepared comments like I normally do. I do have some slides I'm going to go through, but I'm going to go through very, very quickly. But this is really day 7, and as I mentioned from the outset, this is really your day to just sort of have me to answer questions and just sort of catch up. So this is a Real Investors event. Nonetheless, would you please join with me in a prayer? Dear Lord, we thank you so much for your wonderful hand upon us. We just continue to ask for your sense of your sense of peace amongst those who are challenged and who are struggling. We ask for your sense of comfort for those who are hurting. And we ask for your hands on the leadership of this country and the leadership of our businesses. And Lord, have your hands on us. Let us to make wiser decisions and have your hands on us to give us the strength we need to do the things we need to do. In Jesus' name, amen. So real quick, I'm going to run through my stuff very, very, very quickly. This is day 7 of our 21 Days to Real Estate Riches program. Can everybody see my screen okay? Yes, thumbs up. And it says 21 Days to Real Estate Riches new. Yes? Okay. All right. So we are here. And I've decided just to take, put in a 1-day circuit breaker break. So these next 2 items on our first strategic hire and building our team, that's what we're going to start off with tomorrow. Please be on time. Most of you are, but I'm going to just jump right into it. Since there is no homework today, there will be no review tomorrow. Okay. But just look how far we've come in just 7 days. You guys feeling pretty good about this? Yes, give me thumbs up. All right. So again, today really is about a review. As I said before, we're finishing off week 1. Quick reminder, next week, starting tomorrow, we're going to tackle what I call the quick cash generator. This is sort of the meat and potatoes of how to actually set up your business in 21 days or less to start having quick cash coming into your bank account. And so I'm going to break it down step by step, and I would just strongly ask that you not miss any of it. And whoever's got that sort of snap, crackle, and pop in the background, could you mute yourself a little bit while I get through this part of it? Thank you. So I would suggest just be here on time because there won't be a review tomorrow. We're going to just roll up our sleeves, get right into it, okay? Again, just a quick recap. This is what we covered this week. Really the fundamentals, the building blocks, Real Estate 101, the 13 different ways to make money in this business, or like I say, 100 grand a year. Talked about the reason and the logic for starting down here with wholesaling and bird dogging and then working our way back up, just like climbing a ladder. And nobody would ever think of, climbing a ladder to put the ornament on the top of the Christmas tree, or climbing a ladder to get some leaves out of the gutter and starting on the 5th or 6th rung. Because if you slip off the 5th or 6th rung, you might hurt yourself. If you somehow take a running leap and jump onto the 10th rung and slip and fall, you might hurt yourself really, really bad. And if you fall off the ladder because you don't know what you're doing, you may hurt yourself permanent. So it only makes sense to start at those basic fundamental skills and work our way up. And as I said before, you're always going to need quick cash. You're always going to need more cash. You're always going to need cash in an instant. Or as one of my folks once said, cash in a jiffy. I'm like, no, it's called a quick cash generator. But you're always going to need that skill no matter how long you've been in this business. So we might as well go ahead and develop that skill day one. Also talk about the fact that real investors exist to help you along your entire journey. We talked a little bit earlier in the week about the different programs at Real Investors. I sent you guys a copy of the course catalog so you see the different courses, different classes. And here's where I divert for a quick second to give you a quick commercial. We have a class coming up. It's not for a few more weeks, but it gives you plenty of time to get this 21 days course under your belt, get things in place. And I highly, highly, highly recommend this course for two kinds of people, excuse me. I recommend it for folks who successfully have kept up with the 21-day program, and now you want to sort of continue on and you sort of like the structure of having something on a regular basis, and would find it beneficial to have me working with you to build out your business. The course and the class that's coming up is called the Apprentice class. And the way it works is we take about 20 to 40 people. We don't typically have more than 40 people. And we put you on teams of 4 or 5 people based on what part of the region you want to invest in. So we put the Baltimore investors together, the Northern Virginia investors together, the Prince George's County, which we always have multiple people. And we guide you, we assist you, and we provide you all the resources that you need. You're like, what resources do I need? The same ones we're going to be talking about next week in a quick cash generator. But we provide you all the resources you need, like the money that you're going to need to go do deals, like the title company that you're going to need, the contractor that you're going to need. So in this 21-day course, I'm telling you what to do, but you're kind of on your own to put those pieces in place. In the apprentice class, I not only tell you what to do, but I give you what you need. So you don't have to come to the table with anything other than let's do this. And the most efficient way to do that is to put people on teams of, like I said, 4 or 5 who have interest in investing in a common area and work with you as a sort of a subgroup on that specific area. So the apprentice class, I think, is really, really good for 2 kinds of people. Number one, folks who are enjoying what we've been doing, see the value of it, want to spend some more time together, really want to have me work with you in a small group setting. So far this past week, I've been working with you in a large group setting. And if you've been uploading your homework like you're supposed to, you're getting some personal comments from me and personal critiques from me. But in the apprentice program, I actually work with you in a smaller team setting. We'll actually go out in the field together. We can do some kinds of things that I can't do with 80, 90, 100 people. 4 or 5 people, I can meet you at the property. You can drive in your own car because all the stuff happens in your own backyard. And I can show you step by step how things happen and answer your questions live on site at a property. But most importantly, the apprentice program, the reason why we put folks in teams is because we have a big prize at the end of the class, and that is the team that gets a deal done first wins an all expense paid trip down to the Caribbean, down to the island of St. Thomas. And that's really, really cool when we do that. So long story short, I think there's kind of 2 kinds of people who really benefit from this. One, people who are enjoying what's happening here and want to continue on, but would like to have more of a sort of a private mentoring, small group mentoring with me, and actually get a chance to implement what we've been going through and have me help you implement it. And the timing is kind of perfect. You finish off the 21-day course, you have a couple of weeks of downtime, and then boom, we jump right on into the apprentice class. Now, the apprentice class is 3 months long, it's 90 days, but it's not like this. We're not going to be meeting every day together for 90 days. It's not nearly as quote unquote intense as maybe you may be feeling like the apprentice class, the 21-day course has been. What happens is on that very first day we get together, just before we get together, I ask everybody to fill out a survey. And based on your answers to this 5-question survey, I organize you onto teams. And then the team sets the schedule for how frequently and in what manner you want to meet. So it's sort of a mutual negotiation. And then once you guys select the team leader circles back to me and we get time on my calendar, and then we get to work. And again, those of you who are already going through the 21-day course, we're going to basically use the 21-day course, but we're going to use it in the field as we actually get out there and do deals. So if that's kind of interest to you or appealing to you, I'll give you the website in a second, but that to me is sort of the first group that could really benefit. Folks who are finding good value and you're getting your assignments done and you're like, this is cool stuff. Now I'd like to see how it really works. Well, the apprentice class is where it is to see how it really works. And again, I organize you in small teams and we'll work with you in small teams in the field. Second group of people I would say this would really benefit is people who are struggling right now. And I don't mean struggling like, you wish you had never met me, you wish you'd never heard my name, you want to get the heck out of here. No, that group of people should have been gone in the first 2 days, should have got a refund, gone to Need Help, Ask Lisa, and got a full refund and get out of here. No, I'm talking about the kind of person who really wants to do this, but you're really struggling in terms of arranging things on your schedule. You're struggling in terms of getting family members or coworkers to sort of cooperate. And the thing that's really kind of holding you back is you just got really just too many demands on your time. And if you find yourself in that category, I would also recommend the apprentice program, because in the apprentice program, like I said, we put you on the teams and the teams kind of share the work. When you take the 21-day course and actually implement the 21-day course, you're doing that on your own. But when you join up and you participate in the apprentice class, for 3 months, you're working in a collaborative fashion and you're sort of divvying up the work assignments. You're like, okay, I don't have X number of hours in my day today to go look at a property or hire a contract, whatever. Hey, can you do that? But what I can do is get online before I go to sleep tonight and set up the LLC and send out the operating agreement so that we can all take a look at it, and then we can organize a meeting and finalize our agreement together. And it's a great sharing of what needs to be done. So it's another opportunity to really learn this business, but do it in a team fashion and not have to have the the quote unquote weight of the world on your shoulders. So I really think those two kinds of folks would really benefit. And if either one of them sounds like you, I would encourage you to go to Life Changing Education. I'll copy it, put it in the chat box, so you don't have to go there right now. But go to Life Changing Education, and there's a whole thing, video and everything, talks about the Apprentice Program, how it works, when it's going to start, all the details. But right now, we're actually running what we call an early bird special, and it's a pretty good price. There's also a payment plan arrangement if you need a payment plan. But I would strongly encourage, again, if you're enjoying this and you just want to spend a little more time with me, but in a smaller group, hands-on, out in the field, getting a chance to see how this really works, and tapping into my resources, tapping into my network, my team, because my team becomes your team. If that speaks to you, I'd say go to Life Changing Education, and if everything makes sense and you can swing it, do it. And then B, I would say anybody who's struggling a little bit because there's just too many demands on your time and you're getting stuff done, but you need an extra day or two. And as we get further into this, you need an extra day or two. I would also encourage you to take the Apprentice Program, because I think having a team setting and sort of the divvying up of the assignments, divvying up of the work could be a great way for you to have, again, a little more hands-on experience and really learn this business and not have as much pressure to do everything that needs to get done. So what needs to get done? Well, that's what we're going to talk about over the next 2 weeks in this class. So again, the apprentice class builds on this 21-day class. The difference being, in the 21-day class, I'm telling you what you need to do. I'm directing you and pointing you in the right direction, but I'm not doing it for you, and neither is anybody else. In the apprentice class, I put you onto teams. I then meet with the teams individually, which means I'm now meeting with 4 or 5 people, not 100 people, and we have opportunities to actually go out in the field and do stuff together over a 3-month period of time, over a mutually agreed to schedule, so you can see how this stuff actually gets implemented. And again, for the person who just really has, a horrific schedule and a lot of stuff on it, it's a great way to learn this business, because you've got fellow team members, and if for whatever reason you can't go, they can be videotaping the whole conversation between me and the team, and then sharing that that video with you later, and then having a conversation with you later at a time that's convenient for you. So I think both of those categories of people could really benefit. So again, if that speaks to you, go to Life Changing Education. I'll type it out in the chat box in a second, and get in on the early bird discount. It's pretty significant. And again, there is also payment opportunities or payment arrangements if that's what you need. Okay. So again, back to the recap. This last couple of days, we've been talking about Go in Motion. We talked specifically why we're not going to use trusts at the beginning. Trust is a technique and a tool that we will talk about. Not so much here, but we actually do get into it in the apprentice class. And trust is something we talk about at length and extensively in the asset protection class. But for the purpose of getting deals done quickly, if you have anything on trust, if you have anything on how to use trust, just like I said before, put it away. You will use it. You just won't use it in the next, the next couple of weeks. So if we're not going to use trust, what are we going to use? We're going to use entities, because entities allow us to clone ourselves. And the specific entity we're going to use extensively is the LLC. So I'm really hoping and trusting that folks did their homework assignment yesterday, because you're going to be using that a lot if you're going to be successful as a wholesaler in this business anywhere in this region, and pretty much anywhere in the country, because more and more places like California are limiting how real estate investors can use trusts, because trusts have been so used and abused, but LLCs still work. LLCs are not unique to real estate. LLCs are used for all kinds of business formation. And we're going to use LLCs extensively over the next week and the coming weeks as you set up your business. So knowing how to do one is kind of important, and getting one done if you're in the Maryland region is kind of important, because you want to use that first one as your resident agent for all the other ones. And you want to be able to do that on your own. I'm more than happy to walk you through it like I did yesterday, And I'm more than happy to walk you through it today, but you want to know how to do this on your own because you're going to be using multiple LLCs as you build your quick cash business, okay? So again, this was the homework for yesterday. If somehow you missed yesterday's meeting, please go into the appropriate place on the Facebook page and watch that lesson and follow the step-by-step instruction I gave. And again, it's a really simple 3-step process. Step 1, figure out who your resident agent's going to be. And based on the homework assignments that you guys did, I see some people chose to use the service we provide, Suite 105. I see some people use other sort of off the internet registered agent. I see some people chose to use family members or friends. Any one of the above is okay. Because the most important thing, especially in Maryland, is get that first one set up, because once you get your first LLC set up, you can use that LLC as your resident agent for any other LLCs that you choose to establish or need to establish to get your quick cash business off the ground. And then of course, once you determine who the resident agent is, then go online, check to see if the name's available for the business that you want to operate. If it's not, pick something that still speaks to you. Then go ahead and register it. Use whatever resident agent that you picked, because you have to have the resident agent's name and address and phone number in Maryland already determined before you go online. And then of course, go to irs.gov, get your EIN if you're planning to open a bank account. Not every LLC requires an EIN, because not every LLC requires a bank account. And then the additional step that I generally recommend is also go ahead and get yourself a .com domain name, especially if that LLC is going to be what I call your operating company, meaning that's the one that's on your letterhead, that's the one that's on your stationery, your business cards. Go ahead and secure that .com domain name, because you don't want to be out there doing business for a certain period of time, and then you decide to go get a website, and then you find out that somebody else has got it. And then you got to go through the whole name change or you know, reverse. And by all means, don't even waste your time with .co, .net, .biz, because when you talk to somebody and you got like 30 seconds to tell them what you do or less, they're not going to remember .co, .biz, .net. You tell them, okay, go to my website, shermanragland.com. That's where they're going. If I say go to my website, shermanragland.net, they're not going to shermanragland.net, they're going to shermanragland.com, because that's how we think when it comes to websites and domain names, okay? So again, if you missed yesterday's live, that whole educational session, including walking you through how to do that, is in the Facebook group under day 6 homework, okay? Today's homework, very little. Catch up. Again, today's meant to be open office hours, where I'm almost done with the last slide. When I get to the last slide, then I'm going to go ahead and open it up and stick around for as long as you want me to. But really today, it's about catching up on stuff that you didn't get done. So for whatever reason, you got some stuff outstanding, please catch up, because tomorrow we're going to start hustling. Starting tomorrow and next week, the quick cash generator portion, we're going to be going at a substantially faster pace. And anybody who's done your homework and done everything you're supposed to do for week 1, you will not have any problems whatsoever. But if you were struggling in week 1, you're really going to be hurting come week 2. So I really want to stress the importance of use today as a kind of a circuit breaker to really get stuff caught up, and use tomorrow if you can to get stuff caught up. If you can take off work tomorrow and get stuff caught up. Because when we meet back here again and we go through the lesson, I'm going to start giving you homework assignments every single night. It's not going to be like the first week. Every single night you're going to have something you got to do. And it's going to make a huge difference in terms of putting money in a bank account. So let's make sure that you're all caught up on the week 1 stuff, so you can go ahead and tackle the week 2 stuff, okay? So your homework assignment, finish everything from week 1 that's undone, and get ready to make some money starting in week 2, okay? And then finally, let me go ahead and show this real quick case study. If you got your AHA sheets ready, somebody's got your mic unmuted. Can you go ahead and mute your mic, please? Because I don't want to be fighting with the video. So, okay, thank you, whoever did that. All right, so here's our case study for today. And then as soon as the case study's over, the video's over, I will be just taking questions. That's what I'm doing here today, open office hours. All right, here's the case study.
Okay, my name is Llcs Paris Funkley. I'm from Washington, D.C. Okay, I joined DC RIA around fall winter of last year. I did the quick start class with, what's the guy's name? Jesse. I did that. And then I did I was coming to the meetings. I joined Jonathan's group then. And then I did the apprentice class. The apprentice class is really what helped me think I had the confidence to get this actual rehab done, because I'd done a house before, but I didn't have the training with the CDs and everything that I have now. So the apprentice class, I was part of the Empire team. We wholesaled some deals and got some, stuff flowing. And that pretty much got me here. The apprentice class was in February. We finished in June. And then October, I have my house. This is just 14 Place Properties. This is my house. This is my deal. So that's exciting. I'm very excited about this. Okay, well, let me add one more thing to the last question. I also did the one-on-one with Sherman. He came, there was a commercial in January with it was on sale, thank you, Jesus, a one-on-one with Sherman. And I did the first half of the one-on-one with him. And that also gave me the confidence, because that was like 2 weeks before I got in the apprentice class, to really get this deal done. The difference with doing it with the team and doing it by yourself is, honestly, it was about 5 of us in the team, but only 3 of us really did the brunt of the work. In this situation, it was basically me doing everything. But like I said, learning everybody's role and doing the multitask that I learned from the team helped me kind of do everything now by myself with this deal. Okay, well, I found the deal probably about maybe 2 months ago. My guy is Jonathan Ragland. So I put the offer into him. He submitted it to them. We kind of went back and forth on the price, but they were pretty much dead set on the price that they wanted, because this is Fannie Mae. So once I agreed on the price, it was just waiting on the owner, the Fannie Mae, to sign the paperwork, and then it was under contract, and we just closed the deal Monday. Monday was my closing. So I bought it for $129,900. I'm putting in about 35 to 45 work with my HML. And then I'm looking to get, probably about 85 to 95, God willing, from this deal. The sale prices in this neighborhood are about in between 250 and 275 on this block. And I was on Haynes, and I did the 1 mile radius. So probably, about 250, between 275, something like that for these properties. To be honest with you, the only thing that kind of worked my nerves a little bit was that it took Fannie Mae a minute to sign the paperwork, because we had the closing for last week, but we didn't get to do it. So I had to pay a little bit of extra to close this week. But that was really the only stumbling block, if anything. Everything else was pretty smooth, because everything is pretty clear and concise in this program. Take this seriously. This program is amazing. It really, really is. From the CDs, I still play my CDs now that I got last year, because you always miss stuff. Have your notebook out, go to the meetings, but I think the most important thing that really, really helped me as far as doing this deal by myself, besides my confidence, was being around other people that have done the deals, that have actually been where you're trying to go. Jonathan I think he's the investor of the year, so that's who I already knew I wanted to help me. Just being around other people that have done deals and made money. And another thing is, get off the dime. I spent a little bit of money to do this program, but it was absolutely worth it. I know we haw, as far as I was gonna make money real quick, this is less than a year. So it is real quick, but it takes a little bit of money to make money. So invest in yourself. Don't put the money on you. Stop it with the shoes, stop it with the shirts, with the jeans and the cars. Bump that. Put the money in you, not on you. Okay, I did it, and you can do it too. I'm not trying to preach. My name is Llcs Paris-Funkley. This is my first rehab deal. I'm a real investor, and I get real checks.
So I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but her check was $87,000 on her very first deal. that she got done in about 6-7 months. Not bad, not bad. But you heard what she said. She started off with the 21-day course, then she went into the apprentice program. In the apprentice program, she had reinforced what was in the 21-day course, working on a team, which gave her the confidence to then go off and do it on her own. So that's kind of what I recommend people do if you can swing it. It doesn't hurt to hear this stuff again. It doesn't hurt to have somebody kind of holding your hand or being in a group setting as you apply it. And it certainly didn't hurt her confidence at all. And getting $87,000 on your first deal, trust me, that's a confidence booster in and of itself. All right. So who's got questions? This is open office hours. You tell me what you want to talk about. You guys bring the agenda. I'm just here to support you in any way that I can. Okay. So what you got? All right. Let me read questions from chat box. When trying to figure out your business name, can you or can you not use Realty? Oh, you can use pretty much anything you want as long as it's not vulgar, and as long as it's not somebody else's intellectual property, not somebody else's trademark. If you try to register something with real investors in it, God knows why you'd want to. But if you did, you'll hear from our intellectual property attorney telling you cease and desist from using that name because it's got a trademark. So you wouldn't use McDonald's in your name unless, of course, your name was McDonald. And you wouldn't use Coca-Cola, and you wouldn't use Apple. But there's nothing wrong whatsoever of using house buyers or Realty. One of my companies is Tradewinds Realty Partners. Another one of my companies is Tradewinds Realty Advisors. Another one of my companies, Tradewinds Realty Corp. And then my parent company is Tradewinds International. And then I typically name, when I start using LLCs to actually buy properties and hold properties or flip properties or wholesale, properties, then I will typically use the name of the property street, not necessarily the address, but the street. So Hudson Street Partners, Village Avenue Partners, Trade Zone Avenue Partners. That's a great way to demonstrate to the person who's purchasing your LLC that the LLC was designed specifically for that particular deal. But for your parent or operating company, by all means, in fact, I recommend that you put real estate or realty or house buyers or something like that in the name so that people clearly understand what it is that you do. It just looks more professional, in my opinion, as opposed to Daisy Laces Happy People LLC. I mean, you could use that, but I'm always of the opinion that if you got to explain something to somebody, you've already lost. If I got to explain to you what the name of my company is and why I picked it, we're not talking about the most important thing. What's the most important thing in this business? What's the most important thing in this business? What's the most important thing in this business?
Getting paid.
No. What is? I'm sorry, I'm asking the question wrong. What's the currency of real estate?
Deals.
So if we're talking about anything other than the deal, guess what? We're wasting each other's time. Does that make sense? All right. So pick a name that has, in my opinion, pick a name that has real estate, realty, house buyers. Those are good names, and there's plenty of them out there. All right. Let me see if there's a couple other questions. If the LLC does not have a bank account, where do you put the cash in the wholesaling transactions? By the time you actually have cash to put in a transaction, you should be opening up a bank account. But from beginning to end, the length of time that I've seen absolutely positively the fastest for getting money is about 3 days. Somebody actually got a hold of the old 21 Days of Real Estate Riches course, and it was a CD format, and they were literally listening to the CDs in the car on the way home and making phone calls. Their names are Bobby and Bobby. I'll never forget Bobby and Bobby. And Bobby, the gentleman, was detailed up from Georgia, and he was a construction manager on an apartment building that was built on Baltimore Avenue, what we used to call Route 1, just outside the campus of University of Maryland College Park. And he was the construction manager overseeing that project. And they came out to one of our meetings, signed up, got a hold of the 21-day course, and they were on their way home that weekend to Georgia. And on the car ride, which I guess, Georgia's probably what, 12, 16 hours, maybe? Again, depending upon what part of Georgia. I would sort of assume Atlanta, but they could have been going down to south of that. But in any event, listening in the car on the way back to Georgia. They were listening to the 21-day course, and they did exactly what it said to do in the car. I mean, I guess if you got 10 hours, what else are you gonna do, right? And by the time they got to Georgia, they had a deal under contract and picked up a check the next day or so. And then obviously they went to their bank account in Georgia and deposited the check. So 3 days. Can you get a tax ID number in 3 days? Sure, as long as the IRS website isn't down, you can get a tax ID number, and you take your tax ID number. In fact, I'll go online in a second and show you this. But when you get your tax ID number, the IRS is going to ask you, do you want us to mail it to you, or do you want to have it as a PDF? Guess which answer is the right answer? PDF. You don't want the government sticking anything in the mail right now. You may never get it. All right, so you say PDF, and it literally pops open another window, and there's your letter from the IRS with your tax ID number on it. Save it, print it, put it together with your articles of organization, and in many cases today, you can actually email that to a bank, and the bank will open up your account online. You don't even have to physically go there. So there's no reason why you can't open a bank account faster than you get the checks. You ought to be able to open up a bank account in 24 hours, and you're probably going to be getting checks to cash in about 48 to 72 hours if you're really hustling. But for most part, for most people who actually apply the system and do what I'm going to start to really get into teaching you, well, I'm actually giving you the foundation that you need, because if you don't have this, what we've been talking about this week, it's going to be a whole lot harder to do what we're going to talk about next week. But when we actually get into it, you should expect, if you're doing the things I encourage you to do, you should expect to be looking at a check 2, 3, 4 weeks out. Plenty of time to go open that bank account. Plenty of time. Okay. All right. Where's the best place to get a domain name? Oh man, that's like saying, which NFL team should I root for? You know, some people like GoDaddy. I'm not necessarily a big fan, but I buy a lot of domain names. I probably buy 20, 30 domain names a year, both buy as well as register. If you ever see a domain name out there that you really, really, really want and it's not available, oftentimes you can buy it from somebody if they're not using it. So it doesn't hurt to make an offer. In addition, once you set up your domain, once you get your first domain name, you're going to have to go to what's called a registrar. And there's a couple hundred companies around the world that are approved to register what they call top level or top tier domain names like .com, .net, et cetera, et cetera. And some of them create their own, but don't even, but don't waste your time with them, right? Don't get a .biz, right? Don't get a .tv, unless of course you're in the TV business, then it might make some sense. But sticking with the .com, there's literally hundreds of companies that can get you a .com domain name. I have heard certain horror stories about people registering domain names at certain companies, and then the companies go out of business. And I know some people that have had that happen. So Network Solutions was the first one. They're kind of the great granddaddy of the business. They had a monopoly for a number of years. And then the government broke them up. GoDaddy's been on the scene for a long time. I use a company called Enom. And the only reason why I use Enom was because there was a company out of Baltimore called Bulk Register that would allow you to register domain names for $5 a pop. And they were out of Baltimore, and I went to go check. As part of my due diligence, I went and checked them out, saw where they were. But they have been, Bulk Register has been bought and sold 15 times now since they first came on the scene almost 20 years ago. But I have continued to stay with them, and that's where I keep all my domain names, because I've got literally thousands of domain names, and I don't want them in 15 different places. It's too hard. It's too hard to administer. It's too hard to manage. So, but if there's a domain name out there that I really, really, really want, Enom provides a service. I think it's called Snapback, and then there's another one called Snap Names. And you can basically say, I want this domain name, and if the domain name becomes available in the future, I'll pay $50 or $60 or $70 for it. Now, again, at this point, I'm now paying $9 a domain name, but I'm willing to pay a premium of 50, 60, $70 if it's one I really, 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 really want. And so what happens is when you register at Snap Names, I think it's on Snap Names or Snapback, when you win, if you say, okay, I'll pay $50, and it's kind of like an auction format, like eBay. If you win, they register it randomly at any registrar they pick. So I might have 2 domain names over here at GoDaddy. I might have a couple domain names, another. But then as time goes on, I'll have them all transferred in so that they're all under one account. Which one do you pick? You know, it doesn't really matter. I like Enom. I like their tools. You know, I don't make any money if you go use them. GoDaddy's fine. You know, it's, you know, and GoDaddy has a bunch of tools for setting up websites, but you don't frankly need them, because I'm going to teach you next week how to set up a website in 15 minutes or less that's free, and has all kinds of top tier security. I mean, the big thing about the whole internet space is sooner or later, the Russian trolls are going to try and take down your website. So if you have any aspirations of, I'm going to put a server in my basement and host my own account, don't do that. Just don't even go there. But again, it doesn't really matter who you use. You know, find whoever's got the best price, see who's got a decent reputation. Again, I like Enom only because Enom was the last one to acquire 2Cows. I don't even know if 2Cows is still out there. I mean, quite frankly, the landscape changes about every 6 months or so that somebody's buying somebody else out. But yeah, GoDaddy's been around forever. Network Solutions has been around forever. Enom has been sort of buying companies left and right. That's who I use. So just find somebody who's, you know, good reputation. That's easy enough to find out. Just go to Google and Google what the reputation is, and isn't going to charge you an arm and a leg. You know, isn't going to overcharge you. And then once you get it, make sure you lock it so that it can't be stolen away from you. And then just beware of the pirates and the trolls. I get letters every day saying your domain name is about to expire. Please fill this out so you don't lose it, and send us a check for $120. And it's not coming from Enom. It's coming from the pirates. And if I, you know, if I allow some, I don't slip up. If I were to allow somebody in the office to slip up, one time I had our bookkeeper, and she had a whole stack of checks for domain names. I'm like, what's this? He said, oh, you're going to lose your domain names. I went ahead and made these checks out for $120 each, which for like 10 or 20. I'm like, no. That's a scam. No, we're not doing that. I have all my domain names locked and on auto renewal. We don't get stuff. I just get a notice on my credit card saying we just charge you X amount of dollars today to renew your domain names. So just make sure you stay away from those scams that are out there. But again, it doesn't matter. It really truly, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. What matters is that you get a domain name and you have it, because whoever you're using it with, whoever's doing the hosting for you, you can transfer it. The way the general rule works is, once you register a domain name, it has to stay with that registrar, I think, for 30 days. But after 30 days, it's like cell phone numbers today. You can move it anywhere you want. Okay. All right. Is early bird special over? I'm assuming you're asking about the Apprentice Program. And before I forget, let me go ahead and type that in the chat box. No, it's not over yet. It was supposed to be over today, but it's over when Sherman tells the webmaster to change it. I haven't told him to change it yet. So if you're interested, the Apprentice Program website is http://lifechangingeducation.com. Okay, so it's now in the chat box if you want to cut it, paste it, and go there later on. All right, I'm just sort of scrolling through the questions, guys. Sorry. Hey Sherman, when did you say you'll be covering website setup? Probably in 2 or 3 days. Can you talk about partnership agreement you use if somebody brings you a deal so they can be compensated? Yes, end of next week. I got to teach you how to bring me a deal before I tell you how our partnership works. What's the best way to use my current LLC for real estate investing to avoid paying taxes on separate LLCs? Good question. First of all, I'm not a CPA and I'm not an attorney, so I am not even going to dare give you accounting or legal advice. However, having said that, and from a business person's perspective, I do all of my activity under one entity, and that's Tradewinds International, which is a Virginia S Corp that I created almost 30 years ago, more than actually. And all the LLCs that I create subsequent that are operating LLCs, meaning ones I'm going to keep, those are multi-member LLCs that will typically have my primary company and or me and or my partners as members of the LLC. because LLCs are what's known as pass-through entities, and that's not a topic for this class. That's not a topic for the 21-day class, but I'm just sort of throwing it out at you. It is covered extensively, by the way, in the asset protection course. The asset protection course was a 4-day event we did a few years back with a top-notch, very well-known CPA/attorney who does estate planning. And we did a 4-day seminar. We recorded the whole thing, and we sell it as a package for $1,400, I think. I think it's $1,400 if you're not a member, $900 if you are a member. Don't worry about it. I already promised you guys I was going to get some stuff for you and share some stuff with you, but we're not going to deal with that in the next 2 weeks. All right. So it goes extensively into trusts. It goes extensively into entity structuring and having LLCs inside of multiple LLCs, things like parent-child LLCs, because it's all about, how do you arrange your affairs, to keep your money and assets out of the hands of the government. But for the purpose of what we're talking about, we're going to first distinguish between LLCs that we keep, which are operating LLCs, that's the one that you print business cards for, versus LLCs that we create simply as a conduit to wholesale a deal. Before we get all excited about that, hold on. That's not tonight's lesson, and we haven't covered it yet. That means you're going to get it in the next couple of days. And when we get there, I'm going to say, okay, when you're using an LLC to wholesale a deal, you don't need a tax ID number. You don't have to worry about the accounting. You don't have to worry about, for the most part, the operating agreement or setting up a bank account. When we get there, I'll tell you how to deal with it. But if we're going to set up an LLC that's kind of our operating business, because we have no operating business, because yesterday's lecture, was all about cloning yourself so that you can go into battle. And if for whatever reason your clone gets hurt, the clone gets hurt and it's not you. That's an operating company. That's your presence, your persona, your clone, your representation to the world in terms of how you do business. That entity does need a tax ID number. That entity does need a bank account. And if you create other kinds of operating companies because you are forming partnerships, that LLC can in fact be your representation in that partnership. So let's say, for example, Alfonso comes to me and he brings a deal, and I say, Alfonso, this is really, really good. You clearly studied you clearly did your homework, you did the lessons, you did exactly what it is that you need to do. As a broker, I can't pay you a finder's fee. Are you okay if we form a partnership and I have the right to buy out your interest in the partnership? Alfonso says, no problem. I said, okay, here's what we should do. Form an LLC. The LLC would be the entity that buys the property. The property is what's going to get wholesaled, or maybe Alfonso's wholesaling the deal to me, and I'm going to keep it as a rental property. So we set up 123 Maple LLC because 123 Maple is where the property is located. I have a 90% interest. I have a 99% interest. I have a 51%. It doesn't matter. But I have the majority because I'm going to be in control. Alfonso has the rest. And in the operating agreement of that LLC, we have the right to buy each other out. Okay? And we have the right to buy each other out anytime we want. Now, if I'm bringing, let's say, $10,000 to the table and I'm signing on a $300,000 loan, for Alfonso to buy me out, he's got to pay me at least $310,000 plus whatever I want for my profit. Let's say in this instance, I want 20 grand profit. Okay? So Alfonso's got to come to the table with $300,000 to pay off the loan, $10,000 to pay off the money I put in, and what did I say? $20,000. So what's that? $330,000. On the other hand, Alfonso brought the deal, but he's not putting up any money and he's not signing for any loan. So I agreed to pay Alfonso 20 grand because that's his finder's fee, but I can't pay a finder's fee. So I said, okay, partner, and then I have the right to buy you out for $20,000. And in the operating agreement of that LLC that owns that property, that language will be in there. And once we get somewhere down the road, maybe it's because Alfonso's like, Sherman, you're going to pay me off as soon as you go to settlement, right? Okay, yes. Or Alfonso says, you know what, Sherman, this house needs some rehab. Would you mind if I hung out a little bit longer? to see how you rehab it. I say, fine, I'll buy you out after we finish the rehab. In the meantime, come look over my shoulder, see how this stuff gets done. And he hangs in there with me for a certain period of time, and then I exercise that option to pay him off. I just did that less than a month ago. That's exactly the nature of what I did with my son. My son wholesaled me a deal, he and his business partner, Neil. It wasn't 20, it was 2, but he really wanted to look over my shoulder and learn the business. I said, tell you what, rather than you looking over my shoulder and you learning the business, how about I make you and Neil project managers on the rehab, and I pay you, instead of paying you a piece of the profit, I just pay you a project management fee. And in the operating agreement, it's specified that Dave and Neil were going to be the project managers managing the rehab, and I was going to manage them, and then I was going to pay them a certain amount of money. And then when we finished it all up, sold the property, dispersed the money, closed the LLC. Done. Nice and neat. Wrap it up in a bow. Okay. So that's one way to structure a partnership. Sherman, when are we going to talk about it? Well, A, we're talking about it now. So congratulations to you guys who showed up tonight. And B, the best time to talk about it is when we have a real life scenario. I can give you all kinds of hypotheticals, but it just makes more sense when we're actually looking at a deal. So I'll talk about it 1 or 2 more times in the 21-day class, but this class is going to be over like that, and I'll make some recommendations. But if you really want to understand how to do deal structuring, if you want to really see it in real time, I'd strongly suggest you sign up for the apprentice class and start bringing in some deals and find out why some deals go forward and some deals fizzle out. And on the ones that go forward, see how that deal gets structured in real time. I'm just curious, because a lot of you guys were already kind of quote unquote with me over the past couple of months. Anybody here participate in that Dealmaker workshop when David brought Village Drive to the table, 1707? Okay. Did you guys not see me do a deal in real time? That's kind of how we do the apprentice program. Like if you bring a deal, you can see how a deal gets made. And I went kind of through the extra effort for the benefit of our members and for the benefit of the people who are coming to Dealmaker workshop to videotape periodically how that whole thing unfolded. But in the apprentice class, like we're doing it. We are working as a team and working on deals, and you're seeing how it happens in real time, and you're learning how deals get structured because we're working on real deals. That's kind of the whole point. So I'm more than happy to give a couple of lectures in the next couple of weeks, but it's going to be really hypothetical. Far better for us to be doing some deal making and you actually see how we do it, because I mean, again, anybody who participated in those conversations, which was over a series of Dealmaker workshops, you saw, looked like the deal was going to go one direction, and then, okay, now it's in another direction. So we had to modify the agreement, and then it went in a different direction. We had to modify the agreement. So always best to learn when you can actually look over somebody's shoulder and see it happen in real time, and see all the different permutations as they play out in real time. Got it? Okay. All right. Is there a reason that you did not put the slides with course day 1 and course overview in the course package you downloaded before starting the course? So I don't know if they've been in slides. No, I did not put the slides in the course because I know exactly what you guys would do with 120 slides. Be all over the place. And then I'm like herding cats trying to get you back to just focusing on the first day of the first 5 slides. So that was very strategic. That was very intentional. When this course is over, I will give you guys all of my slides, but I'm not giving you slides now because I know some of you like to race ahead, and then you start coming up with all kinds of like woo-woo stuff. And then you're like, oh, I can't do all that. That's too hard. I'm like, hold on. No, you can't do day 20 stuff until we get through day 1 through 19. That's true. But I'm not going to take you to the gym on the first day of the new year and go, okay, lay down on that bench. I'm going to give you a bar with 2 250-pound plates on it. I mean, come on. You really think I'm going to do that to you? And then watch your arms break and your eyes bleed? Please. But that's exactly what I would be doing if I gave you all of my slides for this course on the first day. Y'all be way off on a tangent and go, ah. That's why you didn't get it. Let me ask a question. Are you guys happy with the way I'm teaching this class now? Yes. Is this pace about right for you guys now? Yeah. Are you kind of okay with me not telling you too much ahead, so that you don't have to worry about, I mean, don't make me quote rhyme and verse in scripture, but tomorrow will take care of itself. We still got to get through today. and one of the big mistakes, quite frankly, that I made when I was much younger, didn't know any better, was dump a pound of CDs and printed pages and having people, and then had the audacity to think that the course is called 21 Days of Real Estate Riches, and you were only going to look at day one on day one, and then find out some people are like, nah, I'm not going to do it till this weekend, and then I'm going to do 5 days in a weekend. Are you guys kind of now understanding why we don't do 5 days in one day? We just sort of do today's stuff and then have a little, regroup, a little recap, talk about it, and then go on to the next day, and then the next day. Like, every day builds on itself. We're building a business. We're literally building a 6-figure business. And Rome wasn't built in a day, and your 6-figure business is not going to be built in a day. I'm going to take 21 days, or the time we have left, to teach you step by step what you need to do, and it will live in cyberspace, and you'll be able to access it, and you'll be able to go over it again and again and again and again. But I strongly caution, don't get ahead of yourself. If you haven't done days 1, 2, and 3, don't just rush into days 5 and 6 and go, it's okay, I'm just going to skip a couple of days, it's going to be all right. No, it's not going to be all right, because come day 6, I'm going to say, okay, here's how we're going to use that LLC, and here's how we're going to use the operating agreement. And you're going to be like, how do I form an LLC? When did Sherman give that lesson? Day 6. Let it just trust me enough to be your mentor, your coach, to let me teach you at the pace and the time, and deliver to you what you need when you need it, and not give you so much that you feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant and you're drowning. Okay, so that's why that didn't happen. Let's see, can you recommend some community banks for real estate investors? Yes, but not now. Truth of the matter is, you don't need community banks to make quick cash. Truth of the matter is, you don't need community banks to get out there and rehab houses. Truth of the matter is, the only time you really need community banks is when you start getting into the world of commercial. We ain't talking about commercial in this class, are we? Are we talking about commercial in this class, folks? No. So we're not going to talk about community banks in this class. Is there a class where I do talk about community banks? Of course. It's in the Where to Get the Money class, and in the commercial property class, because community banks are the #1 tool. But truthfully, for investors just getting in the game, we're much better off spending 2 or 3 days talking about hard money lenders. For those of you who have never heard my presentation on why the right hard money lender will make you filthy stinking rich, don't worry about it. You're going to get it in about a day or two. And we're going to spend a fair amount of time, with the time we have left, talking about private investors, hard money lenders, and how to use that combination of those things to get the money you need if you don't have any money. But for somebody who's just getting started, who wants to do quick cash, you don't need huge sums of money. You don't need extensive banking relationships. What you need, in my opinion, is small amounts of money, kind of micro money, $500 here, $1,000 here, and ideally you'd like for it to not be your own. And ideally you'd like to not have to tap your credit card to make that happen. So that's where we're going to kind of focus our attention. No, not kind of. That's where we're going to focus our attention with the time we have left in this class. So no, we're not going to talk about community banks, because that's really not a kind of banking relationship you need until you're either A, have a track record and you're ready to get $1 million line of credit, like one of my clients just did 2 weeks ago, to get out there and fix and flip 2 to 3 houses a year, or fix and keep a couple of houses a year, right? So if the average price point of a house in Prince George's County is about $350,000, and you're out there buying houses in the $200,000 range and putting $50,000 into them, if you got $1 million line of credit, you can probably do 3 or 4 houses a year on that line of credit, or 3 or 4 houses at a time, excuse me, on that line of credit. But in order to get to that line of credit from a community bank, that person needed to have a track record in rehabbing houses. That's not what this class is. And that's not what this class is designed to teach. The rehabbing class is designed to teach that. And when you first get out there and rehab houses, you're probably going to use a hard money lender. So why don't we spend the time we got right now talking about hard money lenders and how they work and how you use them and how you use them to your advantage, even if you don't actually borrow any money from them. Because that can make you filthy stinking rich as a wholesaler. Having the right kinds of hard money lenders in your contact database, that's going to make you way more money than any community bank is ever going to make you. We use community banks because the money's cheaper. We use hard money lenders because hard money lenders give us money when even our mama tells us no. Okay? And when you're first getting started in this business, you need some sources of money when your mama tells you no for good reason. Because when your mama tells you no, like, baby, you know what, you've never done this before. You want me to give you how much? Baby, why don't you go do a couple and then come back? And you're gonna have a whole lot of friends and family gonna be like, why don't you go do a couple and then come back? Would it be great to have a source of money that's like, I'll give you whatever you need. I don't care that you don't have any experience. And I don't care that your FICO score is less than 500. As long as you play by my rules, you're gonna be fine. So let's talk about those relationships and hold off on those other kind of relationships. Remember how I said earlier, this is a journey. This is a journey. And your journey might involve planes, trains, and automobiles. Well, don't be stressing about the plane when the part of your trip, which involves an automobile, is still talking about, are you gonna put gas in the car so you at least get up the road? Let's talk about putting gas in the car and talk about where we're gonna stop for lunch, or are we gonna bring cold fried chicken with us? So let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's certain things we need to know. They're gonna put quick cash, first deal, help us build that six-figure business. And at a certain point in time, once we do that successfully, then yes, we'll need to transition into different kinds of relationships and bring them onto our team. But the first step in the process, if we don't have the first deal done, is get the first deal done. And you don't need a community bank to do that. All right. Hi, Sherman. You mentioned that you were going to show us how to create a website. Do you plan to show us how to do that today? No. But I will show you that within the next 48 to 72 hours. It is in the slides and on the schedule. The slides you haven't seen and the schedule. And so we will tackle that. Again, today is really kind of a review. So I'm not going to really introduce any new concepts today. I'm really more interested in, quite frankly, I'm more interested in talking about and doing those things that maybe you are stuck on from week one, and let's get unstuck so that we can move into week two without any issues. So all these kind of questions I'm getting, I mean, I may sound agitated, but I'm not. And I am having a little bit of fun at your guys' expense. Yes, I am. But I really want to hold off on talking about stuff that's really already slated to be discussed in the next 2 weeks, so that we can really focus today on getting stuff done that we haven't got done yet. All right. And if everybody's gotten everything done, which I know you haven't, because I'm looking at your homework. I mean, I don't know, you guys are paying attention because you're not the teacher, but I am. You know, we started the first night with 60, and that's because some folks couldn't get on the Facebook group or the Zoom. And then the next night we had 80, and the next night we had 90, and then Sherman started giving homework assignments. And they weren't hard. Come on, were these homework assignments hard? Right? But all of a sudden now we got 40 people. What happened to the other 40? They didn't do their homework. They don't want to show up. They don't want to get picked on by Sherman. I get it. I get it. I get it. So let's use this circuit breaker to answer questions about stuff that we've already covered. If in fact something that we've already covered is kind of like you still got some questions about it and it's still not quite clear. And then all these questions about what we're going to do in the future, websites, sources of money, multiple entities, asset protection, operating agreements, partnership agreements, we'll get there. Trust me, we're going to get there in the next 2 weeks, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get week one stuff out of the way so that our deck is clean, our brains are clear, and we can tackle week two stuff with fresh eyes, fresh mind, and a sense of satisfaction of whatever Sherman's going to throw at us during week two. I know what he's talking about because I did what I was supposed to do during week one. So there's not a phrase he's going to use. There's not a term he's going to use. There's not an assignment he's going to give me that I can't handle because I did what I was supposed to do in week one, and therefore I'm ready for week two. Got it? Let me see a thumbs up if you actually got it. Okay, cool. All right. Apprentice Program website is, I put it in the chat box. I'll type it in again, lifechangingeducation.com. Any known problems registering domain names with Google? I didn't even know you could register a domain name with Google. I just learned something new. Wow, I had an aha moment. I had no idea you could use Google for registering domain names. So I can't answer that because I didn't even know that. If I was to pay an individual for the referral, not a referral agent, do I put in writing that they are partner to earn a percentage of the profit, of the interest to buy them out? If not, can you explain the correct process? Okay, so here's the deal. When you're talking about referrals, referral fees, I'm assuming you're talking about them being a real estate agent. And if they are a real estate agent, that basically means they're a bird dog with a license. If they're a bird dog with a license, then they play by the rules of the real estate commission and they play by the rules of their broker. At Real Investors, we have a real estate brokerage operation that is licensed to do business in Maryland, DC, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. If you are affiliated with Real Investors, then the rules are all monies go through the broker and then the broker pays you. And at Real Investors, we also allow our agents to collect their commissions at the settlement table, provided they have filled out the appropriate paperwork with the brokerage assistant that has her signature or my signature that approves them getting paid at the settlement table. In the world of real estate, and I've been a licensed real estate person since 1983. That's a long time. And to the best of my knowledge, this rule has never changed. A real estate licensee may not receive compensation from anybody other than their broker. So you as a real estate agent aren't going to be paying anybody anything if you plan on keeping your real estate license. You will receive your compensation through your broker. And if you have somebody who's a referral, whatever, and it involves, let me be very specific, it involves the use of the real estate license. In other words, a referral fee, a commission, whatever, it's going to be paid from the title company to our brokerage, from our brokerage to their broker, from their broker to them. Okay? Now, what's the exception? And there is an exception. If they're a partner in the deal and they're not using their license, if they're a partner in the deal and they're not using their license, then you can form a partnership and you can divvy up the partnership proceeds any way you darn well please. However, this is a little tricky and this is only for real estate agents, so don't everybody else get all, crazy. And funny enough, I had to answer this question again, not on Bigger Pockets, but on Facebook. When you are a real estate licensee, and again, this is only for my real estate agents out there. If you're not a real estate agent, I'm not talking to you. You can just tune me out for like 30 seconds. But if you are a real estate agent and you have an active real estate license and you are involved in a transaction, yes, you can be a wholesaler. And yes, you can wholesale a deal. But you can't wholesale a deal where you're the listing agent. You cannot wholesale a deal where you're the listing agent. How's that work? I have a listing. My client says, what do you think I should sell the house for? I tell my client, well, based on what we're seeing in the market, first of all, it's your decision to make, but based on what I'm seeing in the market, I've run my competitive market analysis, my comps. I'm seeing that houses that are comparable to your house are selling for $350. My suggestion is you may want to think about listing it for $340, because you tend to get a lot more interest if you go price it below. And then let's see if we can get into a bidding war and force people to pay more. But it's your choice. You're the client. Client says, okay, let's list it for $340. You list it for $340. It's in the MLS. You start seeing chatter saying, I'll pay $360 for that house. You then say to the client, you know what? I think I'll buy your house for $340. Well, I thought you said I could get $350. You know what? I'll buy your house for $350. You okay with me buying your house for $350? Sure, I don't care. That's what I wanted all along. Great. You put it under contract, and then you turn around and assign the contract to somebody else for $360. Non-real estate people go, yay! You just made $10,000 wholesale fee, and oh yeah, you were supposed to get a 3 or 4% commission, so now the sell's also going to pay 3% commission. I sit there and go, oh my God, what did you do? You're getting ready to lose your real estate license. My real estate agents who are on this group, who are on this training, why am I freaking out where everybody else is going hoop hoop hurrah? What did you just do? Put it in the chat box or unmute yourself, whatever you prefer. What did you just do in that instance?
Net listing.
What did you do?
Net listing.
You created a net listing. And pretty much everywhere I've ever been in the country, for as long as I've had a real estate license, net listings are illegal. Because what you really did in that instance was took advantage of your client. And it goes beyond an ethical breach. You literally are looking at losing your license at the Real Estate Commission and possibly getting sued for fraud and possibly going to jail, especially if this has become a habit. So it's okay for a real estate licensee, a real estate agent or broker to be an investor, and it's okay for a real estate agent to actually be a wholesaler. But you can never, ever, 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 ever wholesale your own listings. And you can never, ever, 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 ever wholesale a listing of the brokerage firm. Because technically, in the eyes of the law, the broker is the broker and you are an agent or sub-agent of the broker. Therefore, all listings belong to the broker. But I'm the one that got the listing. These are my friends. This is my family. I get it. But if you bring that listing into your brokerage firm, the listing belongs to the broker. So you're sitting here, you see a property for sale, you put a property under contract, you then turn around and wholesale the property to somebody else, you make a quick $20,000, but then you find out, oh my gosh, that's one of the listings that my firm has that's still a net listing, and it's still very much illegal. So what has that got to do with the fact pattern? What has that got to do with the scenario that was discussed previously? Well, let's say for a second that you decide to partner with another real estate agent, and that other real estate agent is not at your firm, they're at a different firm. And the reason why they're coming to you is because they found out that there's this listing on a property, but they don't know anything about investing. So they come to you and you guys partner up together and you dot your I's, you cross your T's, you do what you're supposed to do. But then you later on find out that that listing that you guys wholesaled was a listing of their firm. They're guilty of creating a net listing. And when the stuff hits the fan, what do you think they're going to say? Well, Ronnie over at Real Investors said this was okay, and I wouldn't even have done it if Ronnie hadn't showed me how. And what is Ronnie guilty of? Hanging out with stupid people. Is hanging out with stupid people a crime? Could be. Because Ronnie forgot to ask. Oh, and by the way, is the reason why you're bringing this deal to me because it's a listing of your firm. In which case, Ronnie didn't create the net listing, but his partner did. And when the whole thing blows up, his partner's going to blame who? So bottom line is, if you have a license, you do have to take a couple of extra steps. One of the extra steps you have to take is you have to disclose that you're licensed, that you are licensed, but that's easy. And I'm going to show you how to do that tomorrow or the day after. I'll have to consult with the slides to see which day that is, but it's in my slides. And if you are licensed and you're wholesaling, you got to make sure that you're not wholesaling a listing that is either your listing, your client, or a listing of the brokerage firm that you're affiliated with. And if you're partnering with another real estate agent and they're using their license, and by the way, if you're partnering with another real estate agent, you probably want to advise them to go see their broker and have something in the file, email, whatever, that says it's okay for them to do this brokerage thing, because not every broker's okay with it. Obviously, I'm okay with it because I kind of expect the agents who affiliate with Real Investors to go through this training and understand all these little nuances. But not every brokerage firm understands investing. And not every broker necessarily wants his agents or her agents run around doing investing. So to just play it safe, you want to have something in the file that says you notified your broker that you're doing this if you're not at Real Investors and they were okay with it. Because I guarantee you this, when stuff hits the fan and it gets to the level of going to the Real Estate Commission, your broker is going to be the first one who throws you under the bus and backs it up twice, especially if it could go beyond you losing your license. If it can wind up being you lose your license and you might get sued, oh, trust me, right? Now, how do I know this? You don't know my broker, Sherman? Oh, yeah, I do, because I am a broker. Every year around January, February, brokers get a letter in the mail from their E&O carrier. Anybody know what E&O stands for? E&O? Errors and omissions. It is the professional liability policy that allows a broker to do business without fear of losing their house when stuff hits the fan. Without an E&O policy, Every time a broker got sued, they'd be coming out of pocket to pay legal fees. And if they lost those lawsuits, they'd be looking at making big time payments out of their company's bank account or their personal bank account. So every broker out there has E&O insurance. Well, the couple of things that the E&O insurance carrier asks you is, number one, are you using board or realtor contracts? Or are you allowing your agents to use contracts that require oversight by a lawyer? Because that's the only two ways a brokerage firm can do it. You're either using board or realtor contracts, which means the board of realtors has already paid for a lawyer to look it over. The board of realtors has already said this is approved. And if the board of realtors says it's approved, there's never any question of the legalities inside that contract, as long as you don't modify it to the point that it no longer makes sense. So that's why every brokerage firm winds up using board or realtor contracts. Because if they use a non-board or realtor contract, then the broker has to say so on the E&O insurance form every year. And what do you think happens to your E&O insurance if it finds out that you're not using board? Exactly, through the roof, baby, to the point that it's not even profitable to keep a license anymore. Or something stupid like you drop your insurance and then you're really in trouble, because the first time somebody comes along saying that your agent did something wrong, you're out of business because the lawyers will wrap you around the maypole, baby. So every broker understands we're going to use board or realtor contracts because that's what the E&O insurance carrier demands. And the other question it asks is, how many of your agents are doing investing? And for most brokers, the answer is simple: none. And then they turn around and say, you're not doing any investing. And I hear this over and over again. Now, I know this is supposed to be a review class, right? But we're on this topic, so let me put this out here because this is some new information for everybody. I hear these horror stories over and over again. In fact, this is the primary reason why we created a brokerage firm at Real Investors. I would teach people how to do stuff, and then they'd go out and look for a real estate agent. And the real estate agent says, oh, that sounds good, that sounds good. And then they would start working with the person, and then they would get a phone call saying, I can't work with you anymore. And I'd be like, why can't you work with me anymore? Because my broker won't let me. Because my broker says what you're doing is illegal. And then the person come back to me and say, Sherman, did you teach me how to do something illegal? I said, no. Tell me what you said, show me what you did. And they walked me through, and it wasn't exactly the way I taught them, but it was certainly close enough. I'm like, there's nothing illegal whatsoever with what you're doing. Well, the agent I was working with said it was. I said, well, you will get them on the phone. We get them on the phone, and they're all huffy. You know, I work with this person for 3 or 4 days, and then my broker tells me what they want me to do is illegal, and now I'm in trouble with my broker, and I don't like you, Sherman Ragland, because you've embarrassed me in front of my broker. I said, well, tell me what you're doing. Well, this person came to me and said that they wanted me to put out offers. Okay, where's the illegal part? Well, I wound up putting out 10, 15 offers. Okay, where's the legal part? Well, my broker says you're only supposed to write up an offer on one house at a time, and you're supposed to see it first. And if you don't do that, it's illegal. I'm like, really? Your broker said that? Yes. And your broker's a lawyer. I don't know, but that's what he said. Okay, let me break it down for you. In the Washington, D.C. region, the largest brokerage firm in the region, and has been for years, is Long & Foster. And 12 years ago, Long & Foster opened up an office in China for the specific purpose of facilitating Chinese buyers buying DC real estate. How many of those Chinese buyers hop on a plane, fly to Dulles, and look at houses before they make a decision whether or not they're going to make an offer? And they look at me and they know the answer. None. So your broker tells you making offers on houses sight unseen is illegal, and yet Long & Foster, the biggest brokerage firm in the region, has an office in China selling DC houses to Chinese nationals, and they're making offers on property sight unseen. Well, I guess maybe that's not illegal. Well, you tell you what, why don't we go to COMAR, C-O-M-A-R, which is the Code of Maryland Regulation, and let's find that section 17 that talks about brokerage activities, and let's find that place in there where it says it is illegal to write an offer on a house you haven't been to. We don't have to do that. Of course you don't have to do that because it's not in there. So whatever your broker told you about that being illegal, your broker, unfortunately, is not clear on that. But your broker may want to consult with his or her attorney before they start telling you that what you're doing is illegal. And your broker better darn start consulting with their attorney before they start telling you that I'm teaching people to do something illegal. Your broker may be ignorant on this topic, but I'm not. And your broker better stop telling people that Sherman's telling people to do stuff illegal, because he's not. Oh, okay, okay. I see. That's number two. Your broker says it's illegal to write offers on multiple properties at the same time. Yes. Show me in Comar where it says that. Well, it's not. I know it's not. Now, let me educate you a little bit. You know what's in Comar that you didn't do? You took one of my students who decided to do business with you and hire you as his agent, and he wrote up an offer in writing, signed it, and you didn't present it because your broker told you not to present them lowball offers. Now, let me point you to the section in Comar 17502 that says all written offers must be presented. Let me say it again. All written offers must be presented. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please tell me what all means? Huh? All. It's self-explanatory. You don't need Webster's. So why didn't you present your client's offers? Well, my broker said they were lowball offers, and I'm not allowed to present lowball offers. Okay, let me take you to Comar. Where in Comar does the word, or do the words lowball appear? They don't. Comar says the law is all written offers get presented, not offers your broker likes, not offers that are acceptable to them. And the words lowball don't appear anywhere in the law. Well, my broker said, well, then your broker's a freaking idiot. Of course, I didn't say that. I just thought that. And then I ended it with, you know, the next time your broker says that I'm sending you students who are asking you to do something illegal, could you at least first consult with the law to see what the law actually says? And the bottom line is this: that broker was telling his agent or her agent, I never even got around to find out who the broker was. Normally I do a little research, but I didn't in this instance. But what the broker was saying is, my house rules. Because real estate brokerage is the last bastion of feudalism. You guys know what I mean by that, feudalism? You get to be the king or queen of your castle. You get to make the rules. What the Real Estate Commission says is that we expect the broker to not only know the law, but follow the law and make sure that your agents also follow the law. And what many brokers tell their agents is the law ain't the law at all. It's the broker's house rules. Now, if the broker says, I don't want you working with investors, the broker has the right to implement those house rules. If the broker says, I don't want you writing offers that are 10% less than the asking price, because those are considered lowball offers, then the broker has every right to say that. But what the broker doesn't have the right to say is that's illegal, when in fact it's not that it's legal or not illegal. The fact is it's just a house rule. The broker can make up their own rules, and many brokers do. And unfortunately, the way that they talk to their agents is not, this is the house rule. You know, we kind of sort of want you not making offers. If the property's listed for $350, we kind of don't want you making offers for less than $325, because your commission is tied to how much the house sells for. And we kind of like seeing big commissions because you're splitting your commission 60-40 with us. And we don't want to have you work at the end of the day and our part of the check is only $2,000 when our part of the check could have been $5,000 or $6,000 if you had made an offer for, you know, close to full price. That's a house rule. And brokers are free to make their house rules, but those are not, but those statements about certain activities being illegal. And so we saw this over and over and over and over again. And that's quite frankly why we started our own brokerage firm. So that our investors could have agents who weren't stupid. I'm sorry, no. Our agents could have, our investors could have agents who knew what they were talking about. And where we could figure out ways that the agents can still make money, even though they're quote unquote putting out lowball offers. Because there's lots of ways to make money on a deal besides just your real estate commission. But unfortunately, the whole real estate industry, especially residential real estate, revolves around the commission and everybody getting as close to a 3% commission as possible. Listing agent get 3%, buyer's agent get 3%. Well, that whole world is crumbling now anyway because of other things besides us. Redfin, Zillow's become a full-on brokerage firm. Mr. Lister, 1%ers, blah, 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 but mainly Redfin. And so the bottom line is this. And again, I'm trying my best not to get into next week's lesson in this week, but we're gonna have several. I don't want to say long because I'll be like, Sherman, you can't keep me up till 10 o'clock. We're gonna have several in-depth, abbreviated conversations on why it's so important for you to be in control of your business, and that by the time this 21-day course is over, you'll know more about the real estate industry than real estate agents do. So you need to not listen to nonsense when real estate agents start talking nonsense, okay? But that's like I said, that's a lesson for a day or two from now. Main thing here, where I sort of went off on the tangent is every year, brokers have to re-up their E&O insurance, and it's not cheap. And if their agents are using non-border realtor contracts, and if their agents have, if they have too many agents who are doing investments as opposed to brokerage, that has a dramatic impact on their E&O insurance. And so therefore, many brokers do limit what agents can and cannot do because that has a direct impact on their bottom line, okay? So anyway, let me answer a couple more questions and then we'll open up microphones and you guys can ask me questions. Net listing. Since we are in the DMV, is setting up a Maryland LLC, can we put offers for houses in DC and Virginia? So I went over this yesterday, so I'm not going to spend too much time today. If you missed yesterday's lesson, please go back and go through it. The reason why we're setting up Maryland LLCs is because Maryland is the only state that has a law in the region that requires that title companies withhold 6% of the sales price of the house at settlement if you're doing business, if the transaction is being done through a foreign entity. What's a foreign entity? Go back and listen to yesterday's lesson because I'm not going to reteach yesterday's lessons today. Now, if you are registered in Maryland and you go do business in DC, Virginia, you are in fact a foreign entity, but Virginia and DC don't have that 6% law on their books. So therefore, that's a non-issue if you're a Maryland entity doing business in DC or Virginia. Okay. Would you advise a licensee write their own investor contract, not your firm? Carlos, I don't think I understand the question, but you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask it to me, and and the more information I have, the better I can answer it, okay? That is one of the questions on, yes. Those of you who don't know, we actually teach the 60-hour class, so I know what's on the exam. I know what's on it. I know how to make sure that you pass it, and I know what the Real Estate Commission is looking for. And the number one way that agents get tripped up, there's two ways you can surefire get tripped up. Three, really. One, lose the earnest money deposit. Don't account for if you can't account for the earnest money deposit, you're going to jail. Two, break a fair housing law. You break a fair housing law, you're going to lose your license. And three, do anything that looks, tastes, smells like a net listing, and you're probably going to lose your license and probably have your case at the Real Estate Commission forwarded to the Attorney General's office. I love how they do this, by the way. If you're a real estate agent that screws up, they slap you on the wrist. If you're a real estate agent that they think is breaking the law intentionally so, they literally take your case, everything including your testimony, and they immediately send it over to the Attorney General so the Attorney General can prosecute you for other crimes. Don't you love Maryland? They do a fact finding, found out that you did something stupid. Because it was a real estate commission, you didn't bother to get a lawyer. You just went in there and represented yourself, and you gave some testimony under oath, like on a Zoom or whatever. And then they're like, oh my God, okay. You lose your license, you can't practice for a year. And oh, by the way, everything you just said is going over to Brian Frost, the Attorney General, and you pretty much better expect the sheriffs to be knocking on your door, taking your butt to jail. Because you just, not only did you break the law, you admitted it because you didn't bring a lawyer with you to the hearing because you're like, oh, it's only a real estate commission, it can't be that bad. All right, yes, ignorance is good.
Hey,
Yeah.
Sherman.
Hey, Carlos, good to see you, man.
Likewise.
So what's the question?
Yeah, the real quick is if an agent's gonna submit an offer as an investor using like the GCAR or the MAR contract.
Yep.
Would you advise them representing themselves, or should they go on and have an agent actually represent them?
Okay, so now I understand the question. And this is to a large degree what we're going to talk about in the next 48 hours, tomorrow's class and day after. In my opinion, the number one trait you should be looking for from a real estate agent is skills in areas where you know you're weak. So for most new investors, the places where they generally are weak are A, negotiating, B, understanding the process, and C, having a network of contacts like title company, contractor, et cetera, et cetera. So leveraging the real estate agent is a great way to build team, a great way to get a negotiator, and a great way to bring on board somebody who can just sort of help guide you through the process if you pick the right real estate agent. The things that new investors tend to be good at, even if they're totally new to real estate, is they know how to use a fax machine or a copier or a scanner. They know how to use a telephone because they've been doing it ever since they were 3 years old, and they know how to like send out emails. So that being the case, in a very simplistic sort of way, why in the world do you want the real estate agent to write the offer, fax or email the offer, and call the listing agent to make sure the offer is received, when those are all things you can do for yourself, and then you never have to ask the agent how you doing with those offers, right? If you do it yourself, you know exactly. Now, the purpose is to get the offers out there so that you can get into a highest and best situation, as you know, Carlos, and then have the agent negotiate the deal. So that's generally how investors should work with brokers and agents, and select their agent. And again, that's the lesson for tomorrow and the following day. So I'm just sort of giving it to you real quick. We'll go through it in detail, and I'll even give you a checklist of who's responsible for what that you should sit down and negotiate and sign with your agent, whoever your agent is. We're going to talk about that. Now, Carlos's question is, well, what if I'm the investor and I'm also an agent? In that particular case, I still think those things apply. If you are an agent, but you are not very confident or comfortable in your negotiating skills, then by all means, go find an agent who knows what they're doing. If you can find them inside your firm, great. If you can't find them inside your firm, go someplace else. If your broker's okay with you doing investing and your broker's the top negotiator in your office, then leverage your broker. But your broker's not going to be happy if you come to them and say, hey, listen, I'm going to make offers on like 15, 20 properties. I know I'm only going to have like 2 or 3 get highest and best, and I want you doing everything for me. Your broker's going to like, get the hell out of my office. But if you say to your broker, okay, I got a system, I got a plan in place, I'm going to get these offers out the door, and all I want you to do is to negotiate those 2 or 3 deals that come back, and they say, okay, highest and best. So if I do this, I know you're going to be in a position to negotiate for me once or twice a week. Are you cool with that? And are you cool with me paying you for that? And the broker says yes, or an agent within a broker says yes. And if you can't find that kind of an agent in that brokerage firm, go find an agent in another brokerage firm. And if you are an agent, just make sure you clear it with your broker. But to me, the decision to pick an agent to represent you has less to do with the formalities of writing up the contract and has a lot more to do with what skills do you have versus what skills do they have. And if they have skills you don't have, or skills you're not quite comfortable with, or skills you're still developing, then grab those skills. And the fact that you're entering into a brokerage relationship and you're agreeing to pay them a commission, all great, all the better, because now they're getting paid when you get paid. But to me, the decision of who do you use really hinges more on what do you need than necessarily the formality of, I'm an agent, you're an agent, I'm at this firm. So when I first got started, I'll be very honest, when I first got started in this business 20 years ago, I had my real estate license, but I was still not all that comfortable talking the lingo of residential because I'd spent so many years in commercial, and I was not that comfortable with how that whole sort of residential process worked. So I hired Gwen Lopes, who at the time I think was at Century 21, and she was my agent for my first 5 or 6 deals. And then after I looked over her shoulder for a while, I'm like, okay, I got this. So that's sort of the mechanics of hiring an agent. Let me go one step further, Carlos, and that is the actual mechanics of who's representing who. We're going to get into this tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. This is going to be a reoccurring theme in our coming week. You are not representing you. If you are a licensed real estate agent, and that's the question that Carlos is asking, you're not making offers on properties. your clone is. And as I said yesterday, and if you guys didn't quite get this, and after I finish, if you still don't quite get this, please go back and review the lesson from yesterday. You and your clone in the eyes of the state are not the same thing. You are not making offers on properties. Your LLC is. Can you be both the owner of your LLC and the agent representing the LLC? And the answer is yes. Can you make a wholesale profit on behalf of your LLC as the managing member and collect a commission as the buyer's broker, not the sellers, because we never wholesale deals that are listings. So you can't, if you do that, you created a net listing. But I can certainly represent the buyer. I have no fiduciary relationship. And those of you are like, what the hell does that word mean? We're going to cover that tomorrow, right? I have no responsibility to the seller if I'm representing the buyer. Can the buyer be my clone? And every head better be going, yes. Even if you're not sure, it better be going, yes, you can represent. So in those cases that Carlos is talking about, where you are a licensee, you are a real estate agent, and you want to get out there and buy some properties, wholesale some properties, and the properties are not the listings of your firm, and they're not your listings, these are not your clients, you're on the buy side, not the sell side, you're not going to be making offers in your own name. You're going to be making offers in the name of your LLC. And you can be both the managing member or member of your LLC and the real estate agent who has a buyer broker agreement with your LLC. Got it? And the decision as to do I hire an agent or not hire an agent really has more to do with, are you comfortable getting on the phone with the seller's agent and negotiating? And if you are, then by all means, do it. And if on the other hand, that's not quite where you are right now, but get a couple more deals under your belt and you'll be cool with it, then go hire an agent and let that agent make their commission and you be happy with your wholesale profits. Wholesale profits are running 5 to 10 grand. On a $300,000 deal, most real estate agents are looking at a $3,000 commission. Are you okay making more money than your agent made? And you're the wholesaler and you don't have a license and you've only been at this thing for 21 days? When your agent goes, how come your check is bigger than mine? Yeah, come on over here with me to Realinvestors. Let me show you, come over here, let me meet this guy named Sherman. Let him teach you how to do this wholesaling thing, right? But again, to Carlos's specific question, is it okay for an agent to wholesale properties or be an investor? Absolutely. As long as you don't have a special kind of relationship, what's known as a fiduciary relationship. The fiduciary relationship happens when the seller engages you to sell the property. But if the seller doesn't engage you to sell the property, you're just coming into the MLS and buying a property that they have listed, you don't have any kind of relationship with them. You don't have any responsibility. According to the law, you only have the responsibility to treat them fairly. It doesn't even say you have to tell them the truth. Now, I generally like people to be honest, but we'll talk about this some more tomorrow, the next day. There's a difference between being honest and disclosing. There's a difference between honest and disclosing. If my son says to me, Dad, I'm just not feeling too good, and I think I may need to go to the hospital, that's being honest. If my son says to me, Dad, I just got out of the bathroom and I did this and I did this, and I'm like, no, whoa, too much information. You don't have to disclose all that. You know what I'm saying? Just be honest. I don't feel good. I think we gotta go to the hospital. We're in the car. I don't need all the details. Well, in a similar fashion, if you're out there doing business as an agent, you have to be, in my opinion, you should be honest. But the law says, the specific law says you have to be fair. Fair is kind of subject to interpretation. But that doesn't mean you have to disclose everything. If I'm putting a property under contract for the explicit purpose of wholesaling it to somebody else, I don't have to disclose that to anybody. And I'd be smart not to. Now we're sort of getting into that area why I'm telling you guys to stay off of Bigger Pockets and some of these other websites, because a whole lot of people out there got all kinds of opinions. I'm like, if you do that, your deal's going to blow up, and you don't have to do that. So again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about next week when we get into the quick cash generator. And so I'm going to save a little bit of this for when we're actually on the schedule and I actually have the slides so I can go into detail. But to Carlos's question, and this speaks directly to what we talked about yesterday, if you are a real estate agent, real estate licensee, or if you're an individual, you are not buying properties in your own name. And if you're not buying them in your own name, you're not making offers in your own name. You're making offers in the name of your clone, your LLC. Because once we go down this path, we are always doing business through our clone. And we are the managing member, managing director, partner, grand potentate, whatever title we pick. And if we also happen to have a license and it's not one of our listings, then we can also be the agent on behalf of our clone. And I know for some of us, we're going to have to hear it a half dozen times before it actually clicks and we have that aha moment. But sooner or later, you're going to have that aha moment. You realize, I'm not doing this in my own name. I'm doing this as a representative of this entity, my clone. And therefore, if we put ourselves in that position, then yes, absolutely, to Carlos's question, you as a real estate agent can represent your business, your clone, your LLC all day long and collect both the commission and the wholesale fee. How many people like that idea? Get paid twice. I love that idea. I do it all the time. But I never, ever, 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 ever wholesale a listing of our brokerage firm because that would create a net listing. Carlos, are you good? Does that help? Did I answer your question, Carlos? Okay, I hope it did. All right.
Yeah. Thank
you
you.
good?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm just looking at questions here, guys. Sorry. Would you advise a licensee to write their own investor contract? Also, that was Carlos's question. Sorry. That's the one question that's on the exam. Yep. When you say your brokerage firm, you are talking about the one office you are under, but not the whole company. Frank, I'm talking about the whole enchilada. If you are a licensed real estate agent at Keller Williams, and your Keller Williams office has multiple branches, multiple branch managers, when you go into the MLS, it will say which office is representing that seller. And if you are related to that office, then you best not be anywhere near wholesaling that deal. Now, on the other hand, if it's a different KW operation, then you're cool. Because in the eyes of the law, that's a totally different brokerage, even though KW may be, the initials of the KW may be in the name, okay? If I'm at Long and Foster, because Long and Foster, to the best of my knowledge, is not a franchise operation, then anybody who's Long and Foster, you can't wholesale any listings of Long and Foster, including the ones I think at Craig Northrop, because that's part of the same company now. But if you're KW, because each one of them is an individual franchisee, or individual franchisee, then if I'm at one franchise at KW, I'm okay with it with wholesaling a deal from a different KW. But again, at the end of the day, it comes down to, is this a listing of my firm? Is this a listing of my team? Is this my own personal listing? And if anywhere in that conversation, it looks like your broker is responsible for that agent and he's assigned it or she's assigned it to another, that client is assigned it to another agent, then you don't want to be anywhere near wholesaling that deal because that will potentially create a net listing situation. And you don't want to be anywhere near that. You can test it, but my gosh, why would you want to be the first test case in front of or umpteen test case in front of the real estate commission? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you want to be as far away from the real estate commission as possible if you have a license. So keep it squeaky clean. That's what I advocate. All right, moving right along. Thanks, Sherman. That was good information. Apologize for confused. No, I'm good. I was thinking more along the lines of offering a finder's fee to a neighbor or stranger who is given my business card, refers me to a friend, relatives, or referral lead. So again, if you don't have a real estate license, and this is easy because you kind of know you have a real estate license or you don't, because when you have a real estate license, you know you got to go through continuing education, you know you got to do renewal every 2 years, and you know you need to show up for brokerage meetings every other month. So if you don't have a license, you are more than free to pay out referral fees, finder's fees, bird dog fees, any way you want. And the only people who are going to know about it are you and the person you paid. But if you have a license, specifically a real estate license, the law says you can't pay referral fees. In fact, you can't even give out a toaster. So you're going to have to figure out other creative and yet within the law ways to compensate somebody. And quite frankly, the easiest one to do, again, since you're not buying properties, you're buying properties in the name of an LLC, the easiest thing to do is make the person who referred the deal to you a member of your LLC and then buy out their membership interest. And so their compensation, again, is not a fee. Their compensation is profit. They did something of value to get a membership interest, and then you paid them for their interest so that you now, again, control 100%. And we will talk about, and I will show you step by step how to do that next week using some examples of stuff I've done and hypotheticals. And those of you who decide to go into the apprentice class, you'll get a chance to see that over and over and over and over again. Because if we have, let's call it 5, 6 teams, and each team has 90 days, and each team has, I don't know, an opportunity every other week. I mean, that means each team is going to have somewhere close to 6 to 8 opportunities to get a deal done. And some will get them done and some will fall apart at the last minute for various reasons. But in the meantime, you'll still see how deals get structured, even if the deal falls apart. You'll have lots of opportunity to see how to use your LLC as a vehicle and the operating agreement of your LLC as kind of a partnering arrangement and the ability to compensate people that way as opposed to paying them finder's fees. But again, if you're not a real estate agent, you can do whatever you want when it comes to finder's fees. You have no restrictions, okay? Do you recommend students in this class? Okay, I already asked that one. I want all the money income going into an IRA Roth account. Do I register the LLC in a special way to have the custodian? So that question is well beyond the scope of this 21-day course. It is a question that comes up frequently in the Where to Get the Money class, and we teach how to do exactly what you're asking. It is a question that comes up from time to time at the Do Maker workshop. And it is a question that comes up inside of the apprentice class. So if you really want to know how to do that, those are your mechanisms for learning. But I will say this, I'm going to show a case study. In fact, I already showed one. Last night's case study was exactly that. And I'm going to show a couple more case studies where people were able to partner with people using their IRA money. It takes some additional steps. I'll briefly talk about it, but that's not enough to go out and do it. So that's not the scope of this particular class, which is all about getting your deal done in the next 21 days. Having said that, there will come some time in your journey as a real estate investor where you're going to want to bring in a private investor for a significant amount of money. And if you guys, who saw the case study yesterday? Who was here yesterday and saw the case study? Anybody remember what the amount of money that that investor invested in the case study we went over yesterday?
97,000?
No. The case study from yesterday. What was the amount of money that David Allen invested in Rollins Avenue? If you remember,
25,000.
what'd you say?
25,000.
Exactly, 25,000. If you remember, Claire said she put the property under contract. She bought it from a wholesaler, David, who's also a member of Realinvestors. David and Neil made 15. They wholesaled the deal to Claire. Claire paid 125. She borrowed 100,000 from a hard money lender and 25,000 from a private investor. But she was acting in the capacity as a rehabber. She wasn't wholesaling. Dave and Neil didn't need anything to make that deal happen, and they pocketed 15,000. That's quick cash. Claire bought the property and needed 25,000, so she didn't have to put any money into the deal. Ultimately, she made 103,000, but she was acting in her capacity as a rehabber. That, my friends, is what you call chunks of cash. So you remember on that little chart on the wall, it talks about quick cash, chunks of cash, cash flow, right? This class is all about quick cash, that first piece, right? How to make things happen quickly, okay? That's where Dave and Neil were. In order for Claire to make that deal work, she needed to bring in a private investor. She brought in David Allen. David Allen put up 25,000. I believe David said something to the effect that that came from a retirement account. So it is highly likely that Dave's money was done through a IRA, or in this particular case, a self-directed IRA. That's beyond the scope of the 21-day class. But there are opportunities to learn specifically step-by-step how to do that. That's just not the focus of this class. In this class, we're talking about what Dave and Neil did. In this class, we're talking about getting deals done in as little as 15 days and pocketing 15 grand. How many people are here for that? Especially those looking for the first deal, okay? So that's the focus of this class. Now, doing self-directed IRAs and using self-directed IRAs and using private investors, we'll touch on it a little bit. We touched on it yesterday. I'm touching on it now. But to actually be able to do it, no, I'm not going to teach you how to do that specifically in this class. But there are other classes and other opportunities to be mentored and coached by me that will have the proper length of time to go into detail of how to do that. And in fact, the apprentice class is a perfect opportunity to get into some of the mechanics of how do you do self-directed IRAs and how do you bring in private investors. Because most people, quite frankly, don't have money sitting in a bank account. Where do most people keep any money they have? Retirement account. And therefore, you're going to have to take the additional step of helping them set up something called a self-directed IRA if it is your intention to tap into that level of money, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000. And I've, over the years, I've raised over $4 million in private investor money, and probably 90% of it came through retirement accounts and self-directed IRAs. So I trust me, I know how to teach this topic standing on my head, and I've used self-directed IRAs. One of the properties I'm working on now, which I'm not going to talk about tonight, but I will talk about for the class is over. I'm doing a 23-unit apartment building on a piece of dirt that I bought 2 buildings side by side and bulldozed them both. And the first transaction, the first part of that transaction was done through self-directed IRA using a trust. In fact, I think I mentioned that yesterday in yesterday's class, to be honest with you. So I'm not bringing new information to the table. I'm doing my very best to try and not bring new information to the table today because today's a review session. But I used a self-directed IRA. I paid $87,000 cash. That was my IRA, my wife's IRA, our kids' IRA, and my mom even put some money in the deal. And I bought that property in a trust. I did that transaction. That was my first transaction using self-directed IRAs and trusts. I did that transaction in 2003. So I know how to do this stuff. And the reason I'm not talking about it here is because you don't need to know how to do that to generate quick cash. I got started in this business in 2001. By the time 2003 had rolled around, I already had 2 years under my belt of making over $100,000 a year, part-time from my basement office. I didn't own the buildings that where Realinvestors is out of. That I didn't buy those buildings, those commercial buildings in 2005. So in this class, I'm endeavoring to teach you, I am teaching you what I did my first 2 years in the business and what I've been teaching other people since 2003, which is how to get the first deal done, get some quick cash in your pocket so you can build towards those bigger things. But you don't really need to know self-directed IRAs, and you don't need to know private investors, and you don't need to know how to do commercial and community-based banks and trusts. I've done them. I've done it for well over 20 years, and I'll teach you how to do them, just not in this class. That's another lesson for another day, as I like to say, okay? All right, last one. Do you have to be a member to participate in deals with self-directed IRAs? Robert, do me a favor, we can have a separate conversation after the class is over. If you would like to be an investor in one of my deals, I have something special that I do, which is I have a high-level coaching program, and people who invest in my deals, I cover a big portion of it. But I don't want to talk about that today, and I kind of don't want to talk about it for the next 2 weeks. So I want to stay focused on this quick cash thing. But yes, I do have a system I've been doing for like the past 10, 15 years where people who do want to invest and they decide, hey, what I'd really rather do, Sherman, is be an investor and write checks and sort of look over your shoulder and be a part of what you're doing. Yeah, I have a mechanism for that. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it offline, and also talk to you about it at the end of the class. Let's save that. Do me a favor, make a note to yourself. Let's talk about that on the 19th or 20th day of the class. Let's get this other stuff out of the way first, though. Okay, you cool with that? Give me a thumbs up if you're cool with that, please. All right, that's the extent of questions that are posted. Oh, he said yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so that's the extent of the questions I got in the chat. Do you guys have any questions you want to unmute yourself and ask me? Is there anything you want me to go over again and bring up my screen, talking about anything we talked about? during this first week. And again, I'll go as long as we have to, but you know, if we only wind up going for, looks like about an hour, I'm cool with that too. Whatever you guys want to do. How can I help?
I have one question.
Yes, so Ulysses. What's up, sir?
It was the last part when you was doing the LLC.
Yeah.
It was right before you made the payment when you told him that you were gonna do it as his agent. You remember that part, that last step?
Yes, but I was not acting as a real estate agent. I was acting as an agent on behalf of Frank, because I was filling out paperwork for Frank's LLC. It wasn't my LLC, it was his. And so one of the last questions it asks you is, are you an owner, officer, or agent? And the appropriate answer for that particular thing I was doing was to select agent, because it's not my LLC, and I'm not an owner or a partner in that, or member of the LLC, excuse me, and I'm not an officer of the LLC. So I was acting in the capacity as an agent, but that doesn't mean real estate agent. That means
Yeah, I knew that part, but I was saying, like, let's say if he was doing it,
if he was doing it, he would select owner or member.
Oh, okay.
If he was doing it, but I was doing it for him just for the sake of expediency and recording it so you guys could see me do it. But when you get to that box, yes, normally you guys would pick either owner or member, and either one's fine.
Okay. I might have messed up that last one.
It's okay. Look, at the end of the day, the great thing about it is, even if you messed it up, the state will give you a chance to fix it. So, and what's happening now, and I'm kind of a little disappointed. In fact, I'm going to talk to my friend Marvin Holmes, who's a member of the House of Delegates. Did you guys notice how they tagged on, what was it, a $50 expediting fee? Which is normally what they charge you when you go to Preston Street and do it in person. And then they had the audacity to send you an email saying, congratulations, we got your information. It may take 7 to 10 days. How is that expedited? So it just seems to me they ought to whack that $50 fee if it's going to take them 7 to 10 days. But I'm hoping, and I gave this message to Frank through the Facebook group. I'm like, hey, I know it said 7 to 10 days, but if it actually winds up being like 2 or 3, let us know right away so we can actually see how quickly they're turning these things around. It used to be when you went online, truthfully, if you put information in at 8 o'clock that night, you had the information back in your hands at 10 o'clock the next morning. Obviously over a weekend that doesn't happen, but if it's a weekday, it's not uncommon. But I do know for a fact that Dave, when he was forming Dave and Neil, how many of you guys watched that whole scenario play out in the Dealmaker workshop when I bought that property from Dave?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so what happened, and that was a really good sort of look over my shoulder moment. What happened was they bought that property off of an auction website, Hubzu, and the auction website specifically said, we're not going to let you assign your contract. It said it very clearly, you can't assign the contract. So whatever entity or whatever individual is buying the property couldn't be assigned. So they made the offer, unfortunately, in the name of their operating company, which they've been out there doing business for a while, Dave and Neil LLC. And we did a little fast one, but we got away with it. They accepted the contract, and then Dave and Neil were going to have to assign to me their operating business, which they didn't want to do because they have a website up, yada, yada, yada. So like, man, we're really jammed, aren't we? I'm like, yeah, you should have listened to the 21-day course. You wouldn't be jammed. Now, here's how Pops, Dean of Real Investors, is going to help you get unjammed. I said, you have the benefit that you can spell Neil a couple of different ways. N-E-A-L-E, N-E-A-L, N-E-I-L. Well, their operating company is Dave and Neil, N-E-A-N-E-A-L. So we went back to Hubzu and we said, hey, look, it looks like we may have a typo. Dave and Neil is actually spelled N-E-I-L. Is it okay if we change the name of the contract to Dave and Neil, N-E-I-L, as opposed to N-E-A-L? And Hubzu said, no problem, go ahead, send us the paperwork. So like, okay, great. Now let's go form an LLC that's spelled Dave and Neil, N-E-I-L, as opposed to N-E-A-L, and get it over to Hubzu real quick. Well, it took the state of Maryland 3 weeks to get that paperwork. I have no idea what was going on, but it took them 3 weeks. And Hubzu was sort of like, after a day or two, like, where is it? Where is it? Hey, when are you going to send us the paper? And so we finally got the paperwork done, got it over to them, and they were cool with it. And then what happened was because Dave and Neil, Neil, is a different clone from Dave and Neil, Neal. They were able to assign me the contract through Dave and Neil, and their operating business stayed with them and stayed intact. Okay, so why do we bother telling you that story? Because sometimes you make a mistake and sometimes you can recover from it. It's not that bad. And of course, to give you guys yet another example of what it means to create clones, and literally creating clones on demand. Hopefully you guys who are forming these LLCs at the state of Maryland, you're not going to have a 3-week experience. I mean, I'm hopeful, if for no other reason than they're telling you 7 to 10 days, as opposed to they told them flat out it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks. But I guess, you know, maybe they either hired a new contractor or they've added some more manpower, whatever it is that's necessary. But it should take, in normal situations, about 72 hours. And if you go to Preston Street, you can walk out the same day, but not everybody, quite frankly, has the ability to go to Preston Street. I do actually have a video that I'll show you guys that I shot at, it's sort of funny because they don't like you to bring in cell phones or cameras, but I got to know the lady at the front counter really, really well. I said, hey, would you mind if I just shot a little video because I'm training some people how to do this? And she's like, sure. So they let me actually shoot a video up at SDAT showing what the process looks like when you actually go there in person. And so I'll share that with you guys sometime next week at an appropriate point. It's about a 10-minute video. So we'll show it as part of the lesson. All right.
And
Yes.
last question. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
All right, last question. Now, it is when I advertise that, you know, do my business cards, I have to create a Maryland address. Is that correct?
So generally speaking, I recommend just go get an address at a UPS store.
I have one, but it's DC.
Well, look, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the physical mailing address for your business is in DC. It's still
Okay.
a Maryland LLC.
Okay.
And you still have and you're still going to have a Maryland resident agent. So you will meet all the qualifications for being a Maryland entity, even though the physical address is outside the state.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the state doesn't care where your physical address is as long as you have a Maryland resident agent, and you can't even file and create unless you have a Maryland resident agent. And some states call it resident agent, some states call it registered agent. But fundamentally, it's the same thing. It's somebody who's inside the state who agrees to receive service if the state needs to get a hold of you. My primary company is a Virginia company. The Commonwealth of Virginia does not care that my mailing address is in Upper Marlboro. I still pay, like you guys, some of you guys opted to pay. I pay I think I pay $175 or $200 a year for a Virginia resident agent who happens to be in Richmond, who I've never met, never will meet, don't care to meet. And every year they send me the bill and the paperwork and say, has anything changed? Nope. Okay, give us a credit card or send us a check for $200. But all the mail coming from the state and all the mail coming from the resident agent, which hasn't been much. I think they sent me mail one time because we missed the deadline, and the state sent the thing to them, and then they sent it to us. But all the mail coming from the state's coming to Upper Marlboro. They don't care. As far as they're concerned, it's sticking in an envelope with a stamp anyway. They don't care where it goes, as long as they know how to get a hold of you when they need to. All right, other questions?
Hey, Sherman.
Yes, sir.
Just to let you know, it's not a question, but just to let you know, you may know it, you may not, but you can take the light rail up as well to get to the SDAT to file. You
can. Ain't no way I'm taking. Listen, young man. When I was a student at Towson University, I used to take the number 9 bus from York Road all the way to Baltimore. It was a 15-minute trip, was 45 minutes to an hour, 45 minutes. Sherman don't do no public transportation anymore, not in the United States. I have no problem hopping on a bullet train in Europe and going from London to Paris, but you will not catch me on the light rail, not now, not ever. But if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. And yes, thank you for that comment. I think the light rail station is actually right in front of the building. But you know, ever since the coronavirus and the pandemic, so much stuff now is done online. It's almost kind of crazy to go anywhere if you don't have to. And all I'm saying is, you know, in those instances where the state's taking a week and you really kind of need to have something set up in a day, you still have that option. You can still, you know, hop in a car or light rail. Thank you, Raymond, for pointing that out. You won't find Sherman on the light rail, but It's still a viable option. Or if you want to pay a little extra money, you can take the MARC train from Union Station or Bowie State and be in downtown Baltimore, and then take an Uber to be over at Preston Street. So good point. Thank you for pointing that out. Question from Mark: will there be any way to trace back to the address used on the registration at Maryland Business Express for the LLC? So you're okay. So Mark, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself, because I don't fully understand the question that you typed in. So if you want to ask me that question, I might be able to understand a little bit better.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you just
Oh,
fine.
great. Thanks. Yeah. So when you're registering on the site, they have an address that you put in. And is there, I mean, that's where your LLC is registered. Is there some way for somebody to say, hey, who registered this LLC? Or that's once it's registered, once the paperwork's filed, it doesn't go back any farther.
So
does that make sense?
I think I do. I think I understand. So let me walk you through it, and then you can ask the question again if I don't fully address it. When you go online and you register your entity, there's 6 questions. There used to be 9. They got rid of a couple of them. One of the ones they got rid of, to my surprise, is they used to ask, what's the business purpose? And when they would ask the business purpose, I would always advise people to say investments in real estate and or any other valid legal purpose under Maryland law, which was sort of all encompassing. They don't even ask that question anymore. So the 6 questions they fundamentally ask are: what's the name of the company? What is the address of the company? What is the name of the registered agent? What is the address of the registered agent? Who's the authorized person? And then where do you want us to send your documents?
Right.
So that last question, you could send that to any address you want. You could technically send it to your home address. However, whatever you say is going to be part of the public record. So I generally recommend keeping your home address out of the public record altogether, because it never comes off. Even if you later on file a piece of paper, an amendment to the registered agent or an amendment to the address, A, they're going to charge you a $50 or a $75 fee to process it, and B, the original paperwork still stays in place. Whatever you tell them in the first instance never comes off. So what I would recommend is one of 2 things. If you use a resident agent service, like the one that we offer, you can use our address. And many of you guys chose to do that. A lot of you had 16,000 trade zone. The only thing you got to do is make sure you notify our staff so that when your mail does show up, we're not sending it back to the state because we didn't know that you had done that. You can use a UPS store account. And many of us also have UPS store accounts that we get mail on a regular basis. I've always had mail come to the UPS store rather than coming to my home address. And I think you're okay using a UPS store for where do you want us to send it, but they're getting a little problematic about using UPS store for resident agent.
So that was just the resident agent could not be the UPS store, but the other address could be.
I think it can, but if you look, if you wind up putting it in there and it bounces back, guess what? Because that rule kind of keeps on changing a little bit.
Sure.
I've always known, and I've always told people don't use a PO box, but the reasons for that is different than a UPS store. At a UPS store, there's a live physical person. If FedEx shows up, they will sign for it. If post office shows up, they'll sign for it. But if you send a FedEx box to the UPS store, the post office will reject it. If you send a courier to the post office will reject it. The only way the post office will accept anything is if it's done through the post office, right? But UPS store will accept anything because there's somebody at the counter. So that never has been an issue before, but apparently it has become an issue as of late. So what I would recommend is if you use our service, they're going to send it to 16,000 trade zone. 16,000 trade zone is not a UPS store. It is a physical address. It fully complies with the law. You're good to go. And you could use 16,000 trade zone for all of it, as long as you pay the $100-some fee and fill out the application. Go to suite105.com. And as long as we have that agreement and we know that you're using our service and you paid the fee, we're more than happy to accept the mail until such time as you want to change it to something else. And you probably do want to change it to something else because coming out to Upper Marlboro might not be the most convenient thing for you. So if it's like, I just want to go ahead and get this thing set up and then later on I want to modify the address, then just go ahead and get it set up. And again, if you're using our service, you can use our address and then modify the address later on when you actually start having a lot of correspondence go back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. As long as your home address doesn't get started in there. So
Yeah, just avoid.
No,
at
no,
all
you can't get
costs-
that out. Yep.
Yep,
Got it.
avoid at all costs putting your home address because it will always be there. It'll
Got
always
it.
be
Got it. Okay. Hey, thanks for clearing that up. And are you suggesting, I haven't registered yet, working on that today. Are you suggesting that we choose the expedited option?
You don't have a choice.
Ah, okay. Got it.
When you go online, it's a base fee right now as of today, $100.
Yep.
It's an expedited fee by virtue of the fact that you used the website and did not physically go to Preston Street, of $50, and then a $4.50 processing fee.
Got
And
it.
then
Got
they
it.
also throw in as an option, but it sort of defaults to the option, but you don't really need it, a certified copy of your certificate of good standing, which again, for the most part, you really don't need. Not every bank requires a certified copy because most banks can go online just like you can and look up your status at SDAT and print it out and put it in your file. But if you happen to have a banking relationship with a bank that does want a certified copy, you can always come back after the fact and order the certified copy for another $100.
Sure. Yep. Okay. One more question about earlier kind of conversation.
Sure.
With a wholesale business, I am an agent, but if I have a partner in my business who isn't, can they wholesale a property that my broker or I have listed?
And you're a party to the LLC?
Correct.
No, you're gonna get yourself in trouble.
Okay.
And that by the way, that last comment is Sherman's opinion. That's
Yep. Not legal. Got it.
Look, if you want to do squeaky clean means squeaky clean. I would just generally stay away from any kind of direct involvement of wholesale.
Any conflicts. Yeah. Yep. Got it.
Let's put it this way. When the state of Maryland wrote the law, what's called the PIFA law, Protection of Homeowners in Foreclosure, that established the whole foreclosure consultant thing, which we talked about a little bit a couple of days ago. In that law, it specifically says, no, it can't be you. It can't be a partnership. It can't be a family member. I mean, they really thought through all the different ways people would try to get around the law. So it's not like the legislators and the, what's the word I'm looking for? The administrators are stupid. And you just kind of like, I always say use the Washington Post test, right? Or the Baltimore Sun test, or the Real Estate Commission test, whatever, pick whichever one you want. You're standing in front of the Real Estate Commission and they're asking you a bunch of questions, and it's very clear that you set this thing up to avoid the law, right? Well, sir, did you know, you're a licensee? Yes, I am. Are you familiar with the term net listing? Of course I am. I'm a licensee. Well, sir, if you're part of the entity that purchased, and then it was your listing, isn't that kind of sort of a net listing? Well, if you say it is, well, why did you set this entity up? So that I could just sort of like, do what I needed to do. So didn't you kind of think that maybe with all your years experience that you might possibly be creating a net listing? Well, I thought it might be, but I just really didn't want to, get anybody in trouble. Yada. So whatever you say, it just, the longer it goes, the more Weasley you sound. And then they're going to package that whole thing up and refer it to the Attorney General's office.
Yeah. No. And I want to stay squeaky clean, like you said, and stay out of those gray areas. So I appreciate that.
Now, if you happen to be partners with somebody and you're the buyer, you're not the listing agent.
Understood that.
Agent. Yeah. Then it's like that conversation goes like this. Well, sir, are you a party? Yes. And in the documentation, I disclose that one or more parties to this LLC is a licensed real estate professional. So I met the requirement of disclosure. Well, did you know that this property had more? Of course I did, but that's not my client. My partner's my client. That's where we're partners. The seller's represented by the seller's agent. I don't represent them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's totally squeaky clean.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good. Thanks. Yep.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. Back to the chat box. Okay, Mark, that was your question, Mark. Great.
Hey, Sherman.
Yes.
Just a question going off of the whole address and, someone being able to find you. So though you may, like, if I were to, say my LLC has my resident agent listed as Suite 105. If an individual does like a search and they find out that Suite 105 is an actual business, couldn't they also, if I'm a listed member of that LLC, couldn't they still find out that I'm a listed member, search my information and contact me because I'm listed as a member of that LLC?
Did you make it to yesterday's training session?
I did.
Okay, so let's go over a couple things again.
Mhm.
And if you need to go back and watch it in the Facebook group, that's fine. But if you recall, remember how I said that when you do your articles of organization, all
Yeah.
they're asking you is those 6 questions?
Yes.
And membership of who actually owns the entity is in your operating agreement.
Okay.
Nowhere in anything that we did yesterday or what you will do will you disclose the operating agreement. So the state doesn't know who actually owns the entity.
Oh.
And they will never know because they don't ask for that document. The only thing they know are the answers to the 6 questions you gave them online when you register online.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if they've updated the form. There is a form that you can download that's a PDF, and it's one of those PDFs that you can actually type information in if you download it on your computer.
Mhm.
And if you go to Preston Street, they actually have computers set up, and you can pull up that form, fill out that form, print out that form, and turn it in with your check. That form has the additional question of what's the stated business purpose. But when you do it online, like we did, that question has been eliminated. So I don't know
Got it.
how and when or where that happened. But at the end of the day, the only things they know are the answers to those 6 questions.
Okay.
Nowhere in there did it ever ask who actually owns this entity and what's their name and address. They never asked for it, and therefore they never got it. They asked for the name of the entity, the address of the entity, the name of the resident agent, the address of the resident agent, the authorized person who's signing the form, the authorized resident agent who's signing the form, and where do you want the document sent when it's all said and done.
So the address of the entity could be the UPS store because that's your mailing. That could possibly be your mailing address.
To the best of my knowledge, yes. Now, don't be
Okay.
surprised if you put in the UPS store and they bounce back and said that's not a
Yeah.
valid address.
Yeah.
So again, if you're using Suite 105, just go ahead and use 16,000 trade zone.
16. Okay.
Now, Suite 105 is an LLC that we set up, and you're not a part of Suite 105. Suite 105 is a totally separate entity. It is a clone that's acting in its capacity as resident. And that's the only reason why it exists, to serve as a resident agent for those members and folks who go through my training who need that service. And they also need an address to use to get up and running until they can, change it to a UPS store or a WeWork, co-work, or whatever. Because at some point you may decide, hey, I want an office outside of my house, and it's not a UPS store. Maybe it's a WeWork situation or a co-work situation or a mail drop. And again, as long as it's not a PO box, you should be able to change it to that other address and keep on running. Now, here's the funny thing. I took my son David up to Preston Street, Estat, 2 years ago, and they would not let us use our UPS address. And as a result, we wound up using the 16,000 trade zone address. But then later on, he changed the address to the UPS address, and they gave him no flack whatsoever, none. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why they did that, but nonetheless, there's always a workaround if you want to hit a roadblock. Don't let that be a stumbling block. It doesn't need to be a big deal because it really isn't.
Okay.
Okie doke.
Just
All right,
another.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask one more? So is it correct that you cannot wholesale a short sale property?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
And I don't know how that rumor got started, but that is not correct. Now, here's some of the things that you need to be aware of when you do decide to wholesale a short sale, okay? Number one, ain't nothing short about a short sale. So as a direct result of that, I don't tend to teach wholesale and short sales in the 21-day course because I've seen short sales take as long as 2 years. Now, how can I in good conscience tell you I'm going to teach you how to make quick cash and push and point you down a direction that I know it could take 2 years before you ever get paid? You're going to be hating you, and you're going to be hating who else? Say it.
You.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not going there, right? So number one, there's nothing short about a short sale. There's nothing predictable about a short sale. And again, this class isn't about short sales. The FSBO marketing class about short sales, and obviously the Where to Get the Money class about short sales. But a short sale, I'll just take a quick second to talk about it. A short sale is where the owner of the property owes more than the mortgage, and the bank has to agree to let that owner sell the property for something less than what's owed, so that the owner doesn't have to come to the table with cash just so they can sell their own house. Talking about adding insult to injury. And the terminology of what happens when a bank decides to take less than what's owed is what's known as a short. The bank is shorting themselves. So that's where the term short sale comes from. As you can imagine, the bank wants to see some paperwork, a whole lot of paperwork, and have to go through a whole bunch of committees and approve that kind of a transaction before they agree to take a short of anything, because bankers don't like to lose money. And the number one reason why bankers do short sales is because they've done the math. And they know for a fact that if they wind up having to take a property through foreclosure, after they get to paying all the legal expenses, paying the county expenses, and then ultimately wind up selling that property, if they had a loan for $100,000 and they had to foreclose, they may be lucky to get $65,000 to $70,000. In other words, 70 cents on the dollar if they have to take it through the whole foreclosure process. By the time the property gets beat up, the homeowner throws a party, which means they're busting everything on the way out the door, right? They pay all the legal expenses. The market may say, you know, that $100,000 house is worth 150, but it's so beat up that when that investor does his calculation or does her calculation, their maximum allowable offer is 70 G's. Bankers have done enough foreclosures to know, in many cases, it's better to do the short sale. So if you owe 100,000 and we agree to give up 10, so we'll let you sell the house for 90 and we'll give up 10,000 that's owed. They know that's a much better path to go down than taking it all the way through a foreclosure process. And they get their money sooner rather than waiting to go through the whole full-blown foreclosure after the bank has filed notice, after the homeowner has attempted to file bankruptcy, after all the back and forth, and then we have the sheriff's sale, and then we go ahead and postpone the sheriff's sale, then have the sheriff's sale, and that whole foreclosure process many times is 6 months to a year long. So a banker's sitting there going, you know what? Getting 90 cents on the dollar, getting 80 cents on the dollar is better than going through that whole process. Now the problem comes in, the banker doesn't want the homeowner to make a nickel. And so they do everything in their power to make sure that that homeowner is not getting anything. And if they catch wind that the homeowner is getting anything, they'll cancel the sale. So there's just a lot of very subjective through committees. The bank has to approve it. The homeowner has to submit something called a short sale package. They have to present a hardship letter. They have to go through a whole lot of stuff to get the bank to approve a short sale. And even after they approve a short sale, when the bank approves it, they're only approving it for that one transaction on that closing date and that contract. If that closing date slips or anything happens, they have to go right back and get another approval from the bank. So short sales can just become overly complicated just because of the nature of how they work. You, as an investor, wanting to put something under contract and wholesale it to your buyer's list or wholesale it to somebody else that you know, or just shop the deal around, short sales just take a long time. Other thing about short sales, besides the fact that they just take a long time, if for whatever reason you can't wholesale that deal got to close. Because if that deal doesn't close, what does that do to the homeowner who's already in a desperate situation? It just makes their situation that much worse. Yeah. So it's not that you can't wholesale a short sale. It's that I normally don't recommend it for the new investor. Mm-hmm. And I want people to fully understand, A, the length of time it could take, and B, the repercussions if that deal doesn't go through. If I'm out there and I'm looking for deals and I happen to find a bunch of deals that are owned by banks, something called bank REO. Are you familiar with the term REO? If you're not, that's okay because we haven't covered it yet. All right.
Real estate
But we
owned?
will be covering it in the next couple of days. So REO stands for real estate owned. That is the terminology that the bank gives on a property that's been foreclosed. So the bank has bank REO. By law, they have to list it with a real estate agent. They have to put it out, which means it's going to be in the MLS. And you come along as a wholesaler, make an offer on a property that's owned by the bank.
Mhm.
If something happens along the lines of you finding a buyer and it slips by a week or two, are you going to lose any sleep because the bank's not going to get their money for another couple of weeks?
No.
I'm not. But are you going to lose some sleep because you had a short sale and the short sale may not go through and the homeowner might be like totally messed up if your deal
Yeah.
doesn't close? Yeah. So just, I mean, just ethically, morally, it's not that you can't wholesale. It's just that I kind of normally recommend that you have a little more experience under your belt, because then with a little more experience under your belt, you can deal with sort of the ebbs and flows of what happened. Like if you guys are really paying attention to these case studies, you're going to hear over and over again a kind of a common theme, which is we had a hiccup, we had to go back and renegotiate, we had a situation where we had, like, this stuff doesn't run like the chain on a bicycle wheel, right? This process is rarely super smooth. And it's not so much that something's going to hiccup, it's really along the lines of what do you do when it hiccups? And the better you are at handling those little hiccups, the more you just realize that's just a part of the game. New investors hit these little hiccups, these little bumps, and they're kind of like new flyers on an airplane. Like I told you guys before, I'm gonna keep on using these aviation analogies. Anybody here ever flown on a plane? Ever? Anybody here ever flown on a plane that had turbulence? Ever? Anybody remember the first time you were on a plane and you hit a little pocket of turbulence? You thought the plane was gonna fall out of the sky. You know you did. You grabbing the seat, you're grabbing the hand of the person next to you, you might have screamed a little bit. But what happened the umpteenth time you were on a plane and you hit some turbulence? You said a couple of thank you, Jesus, I trust you, Jesus, and then you went back to sleep. Not a big deal. Well, in a similar fashion, being a real estate investor, the first time you hit a couple of hiccups, you're gonna freak out. I'm telling you, you just set yourself up for more hiccups when you're doing short sales. And it's not that you can't wholesale, it's that you may be better off doing it as your fourth or fifth deal, not your very first deal. That's all I'm saying. Okay,
Thanks. Do you also go over the process with us of what the paperwork looks like for assigning an entity over?
That's what next week is all about.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, that's why it's so important that you get your entity set up.
Yep.
Because I don't want to be going over the paperwork to assign an entity and you're like, well, how do you do that in the first place?
Right.
Thank you. Today's kind of we don't have any homework, we're having these conversations. I want folks to really, really, really make sure they're caught up on all their assignments from week one, so that when we do get to that section on, okay, here's an operating agreement for this kind of deal, here's an operating agreement for this kind of deal, here's why your operating agreement for this kind of deal ought to be 1 page, here's why your operating agreement for this kind of deal needs to be 20 pages. But if you haven't got your entity set up in the first instance or don't know how to set up an entity, it's going to come out like, and you're like, what is he talking about? Got it?
Thanks. Got it.
All right, who else got questions?
Sherman.
Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. It's Alicia. So it's more of a, well, I guess it is a question. So basically I have like 16 members on here. All of them not on here now.
Excellent.
But I got like one in particular, he kind of fell behind.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna call him out. And he said that the schedule, he said it more eloquently than I am, but he said that the schedule kind of scared him because it showed him what he wasn't doing with everything, including his days. And so I don't know, I guess, do you have any type of advice for it? Because he's gonna have to either catch up or.
I gave my best advice.
Right.
Which is the 21-day course is 21 consecutive days. I thought it was going to be an hour, but we haven't ended a single session in less than 2 hours. And then y'all are going off doing homework. Now, I guarantee you this, next week, all of our sessions are going to be an hour because you're going to have an hour's worth of homework and you don't need me, beating you upside the head. So I'm absolutely guaranteeing that. But I said at the beginning of this session, if you're the kind of person who has found yourself a little kind of behind the 8 ball, but you're still genuinely interested in making this happen, I recommend signing up for the apprentice class. I really, really do. Because in the apprentice class, you're working in a team and it's not all on your back. It's not all, the pressure's not all on you. And sometimes people just need to have 1 or 2 other people that they can kind of divvy up assignments with. This class, this 21-day class, is all about you. It's all about what you're doing, right? And at a minimum, because we use the 21-day class as the foundation for the apprentice class, you at least know what needs to be done. But maybe it's better for you to have 3 or 4 other team members helping you get stuff done. So that's what I would recommend in that specific case. Everybody who did sign up for this, you're going to have access to the recordings. They're going to be available for some short period of time in Facebook, but then we're going to move all that stuff over into REIU. So if you need to sort of like take 42 days to do what folks can do in 21 days, I mean, that's the other solution. Now, I won't be there with you for the second set of 21 days like I am now and like I'm doing here. But if you're like need to go, it's sort of funny when you go to Europe. I took my family to London for Christmas last year. There's like 5 trains going to. There's 5. Where we were was a place called Milton Keynes. There's 5 trains in the hour going to Milton Keynes. Only 2 of them are express. The other ones are like stopping everywhere along the way. And so one train will get you to London in 45 minutes, and then the other 3 trains will get you to London in 2 hours. Which way do you want to do? You're still going to London. And some people want to take 42 days to do what you should do in 21. Some people want to take 63 days. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you got to do. But part of the reason why I kind of got the whole managing your calendar, managing your schedule thing out of the way up front is because, quite frankly, most people are not fully utilizing their time properly. And or they're doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing and should be delegating to somebody else. Interesting thing is, most of us have been here every day for 7 days. Somehow, some way, we figured out a way to get here. And most of us have been doing our homework, because I look at the Facebook group and I see homework being posted. But if that particular person is struggling a little bit, well, okay, that's what today's all about. And then we'll take some time off tomorrow. Tomorrow would be a good day to get caught up. But if they just genuinely, they're, and I'm glad you didn't mention this person's name or gender because I don't know them. But I'll say this, if their life is so out of control that they can't find an hour and a half to come do this and then another 15 minutes to do it, if their life is so out of control, maybe real estate's not their thing. Because real estate rewards you for doing. I mean, this is not reality TV. I mean, anybody can pop up some popcorn, put your legs up and watch reality TV for 2 hours. This is about doing. And if you can't make the sacrifice for the rewards of learning how to become a deal maker, then maybe this real estate thing is not for you. Or said another way, maybe you want to kind of keep them in the loop, and maybe they got some money in a retirement account. Maybe at least you want to turn them into a private investor looking over your shoulder, but maybe they're not destined to be a deal maker. And that's okay too. I got a lot of people who are private investors in my deals because they knew they wanted to do real estate. They were interested in real estate, but one day they had the revelation of, gee, I don't have the time and energy to really dedicate to becoming a deal maker, but I do have some money in my retirement account. Maybe I ought to just go ahead and invest in Sherman's deal and live my real estate life through that. And maybe that's the path that you want to lead him down. I mean, kudos to you for bringing 16 people to the training that you're going through that honestly, you didn't know what it was fully all about. And the reason I know you didn't know it was fully all about, because I didn't know it was fully all about, and I'm teaching it. but you got 16 people come along with you. Well, maybe
6.
You said, 6. Well, 6. Well, and so maybe you want to start having some conversations over the coming weeks or even after the class is over about, hey, how'd you like it? And I'll be like, yeah, it was great, but I don't have time to do that. He said, well, I've made a decision to do it and I've made time to do it. Maybe you want to be my partners. I'm gonna give you a real simple insight. And I need to smack myself because I said I wasn't going to teach you guys anything new tonight. This is supposed to be about review, but here's a little insider sneaky trick. And I teach it in the Where to Get the Money class. How old is your friend?
Probably about my age.
Well, I didn't ask you your age. I wouldn't do that. How old are they?
I don't care. 50.
Okay. And what do they do?
Electrician.
Federal contractor, independent contractor, own their own business, employee?
Not sure. Not sure.
Okay. So here's a little sneaky little trick I learned many, many years ago. Most people go to work starting when? What age?
18. Well, really, we had summer jobs, so teenager.
Yeah, but most people like get through college and then like start working. So this is called 20?
Yeah.
Fair enough, 20? All right. So this person's been working for 30 years.
Yes.
More or less. On average, what do most people do on the 14th or 15th of April every year?
File their taxes.
And what do they generally try to do the day before, the day of filing the taxes?
Put money in their IRA.
Boom! And on average, how much money do they tend to sneak away in the IRA?
On average, about $5,000 a year.
So $5,000 times 30 years looks like what?
That would be
$1,000.
How about $150,000?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here's a little simple rule. I generally take what somebody's age is and I subtract 20, which tells me the number of years they've been working in the workforce. And I kind of generally assume that they have made the maximum contribution to their IRA over that period of time. So 5,000 times 30. And then just to be safe, cut it in half. Because maybe you have a good year, a bad year, you miss a couple of, right? So that means your friend has probably somewhere around $75,000 in their retirement account.
Mhm.
You suggesting to that friend when the time is right that they may want to invest $15,000, $20,000 in one of your deals is not a big ask if they got 75. If they got twice as much, you need to be asking for 25. But $10,000 when they got 75,000, especially when you're willing to pay 10% interest.
Mhm.
What did David Allen say yesterday in the case study? Did you make it to class yesterday?
I did.
Okay, did you stay to the end and did you watch the case study with David Allen?
I did. I don't remember though.
The video I showed at the very end, where David said he put $25,000 into the deal, made 10% interest. And the
Okay.
number one reason why he did it was he had a chance to look over the shoulder of a more experienced investor.
Oh, right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
That is the number one thing you have to offer to those 6 people,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they choose not to become deal makers themselves.
Right.
How many classes has this person attended before they started, waffling a little bit? 2, 3, 4?
2.
2. Okay. So 2 says.
Can I say
2
something? I just want to say something so that you're not just talking in general. First of all, like I'm not shy and I don't embarrass easy, so I don't mind letting you know that she's talking about me. So
Well, I don't want to know she's talking about you. I don't want to know
But
that.
I want you to because I don't want you to have to speak hypothetically.
No.
I never say anything because I don't want to take over your class or make it about me. But
No, Ricardo, do me a favor. Hold that for a second. Just hold it for a second. I'm gonna let you speak. I'm gonna let you have your day and say whatever you want. But I do want to speak hypothetically. Because here's why. Because if not you, somebody else, right? Alicia's
so
going
to wave my hand.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm not going to ignore you. I'm not going to, and I promise.
No, fine.
Okay, but Alicia, what I want to say to Alicia, and I'm saying it to everybody who's in this class, you're going to invite people to come along with you, look over your shoulder, experience this real estate thing, and some of them are going to have the revelation. That's more than I'm willing to bite off. It's more than I'm willing to bite off for now, because I got something going on now, and maybe someday in the future I'll be into it. It's more than what I want to tackle ever, because I thought I wanted to do real estate, and I'm still interested in real estate, but I'm not interested in working quote unquote that hard. And what I'm saying to Alicia is, don't write those people off. Instead recognize they're interested in real estate. They may not be interested in being deal makers, but that doesn't mean they're not possibly interested in being an investor with you.
Mhm.
Now, Ricardo, do me a favor, turn your camera off because I don't even want to see your facial expression. All right?
Turn my camera off.
But I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back because I am gonna speak hypothetically. All right, and I don't want you frowning or smiling. I don't want any faces.
Well,
I'm gonna come back. I promise.
right,
Promise.
all right,
I promise. Listen,
all
but all right. So here's what I'm saying, and I'm not talking about Ricardo because I didn't even know this wasn't Ricardo. Right? What I'm saying is, if you cultivate that relationship properly, and you use that little technique that I gave you, like how old are they and how long have they been working, and assume that they've been making $5,000 contributions. That will tell you, generally speaking, how much money they may have to invest.
Mhm.
And the second you begin to realize, hey, this is somebody who's interested in real estate, but they don't want to do what I do, but they're interested in what I do, start cultivating a relationship to turn them into a private investor.
Mhm.
In the very last week of this class, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that and talk about how to put that into a program so that you start cultivating private investor money as you're building your business.
Remember, I was in the Where to Get the Money class, so I already know.
It doesn't hurt to hear it again because
Absolutely.
I'm not in this class. I'm not going to tell you the mechanics and give you all the paperwork, but I'm going to teach you a technique to build into your business the recruitment of private investors before this class is over.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna teach you.
Okay.
Right? So view the hypothetical people we're talking about who showed up, are showing up, but they're not as into it as you are, as, hey, maybe this person's a potential private investor, so I want to cultivate the relationship in a slightly different sort of way.
Okay.
All right? Now, Ricardo, what do we need to know, man? And thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
That's all good. I appreciate you guys having me. I really don't want to make your class about me. She is actually family. So okay. She checked on me and I confided in her that my life has been of the last kind of 5 or 6 months. I do what I want to do and I don't do what I don't want to do.
Exactly.
So when faced with that sheet, I'm a very literal and critical person. Yep. And I feared my own, seeing how much of my day is actually not productive.
Right.
On a piece of paper.
Right.
Basically scared the crap out of me, not because you guys were going to see it, but because I was going to see it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my day is not productive and I don't even know how to get back into the swing of things. And that was a problem. And then there's also a term that I always use when I talk to people, because people think that I'm intelligent and I tell people I'm not. I'm really a caveman. So everything is problematic to me. I didn't know how to get on the Zoom. I don't know how to work Facebook good. I been doing the Zooms on my computer, but I let Geek Squad get on my computer yesterday and now my computer's running slow. So now I'm afraid to use my computer. So now I'm doing the Zoom on my phone. And to me, it's frustrating. And I always, if something is frustrating to me, I just leave it alone because I always got something else to do. I'm an electrician. I also own a bar.
Excellent.
I own a bar. Kinda, we ain't doing good, but
Sorry about that.
I own a couple bars actually. And I get frustrated and then I get calls and I just heard of your class and it was like, okay, cool. I'm not doing anything at that time. And then all of a sudden we started having all kinds of problems with my bar and they started calling me like every night at 6:50 every night. And I was just like, where is this coming from? Right. And it was just stupid stuff to me, but it was frustrating me. And then I was trying to understand this and it took me a whole day to hook up a printer. I was pissed off about that. It was like a whole day for a printer. And then I just figured I was just too far gone. And actually, when I talked to her today, I was just like, I ain't coming back because I can't catch up.
Right.
I can't catch up. But then, she just,
persistent.
she thinks that she can help me. And I'm just like, you ain't never helped a caveman before. So, yeah. So
well, Ricardo, let me ask you this. And we'll definitely be praying for you in your situation. And I feel for the fact that anytime somebody's been successful in a certain way and then situations beyond their control absolutely positively prevent them from having that same success, it can be a very, very frustrating place to be. So I really do, I get where you're coming from, and I feel for where you're coming from. Let me ask you this. Of the little bit that you did participate, of the little bit that you did see, did you enjoy it?
I mean, it's cool. Everything I see just shows me how much farther behind the times I am.
Okay.
Like I was telling her in the second class, you saw a slide. See, you say these aha moments. The aha moments that you guys are seeing are pertaining to real estate, right? But the aha moments that I'm seeing is like, oh shoot, you don't know how to do that. You don't know. Like it was a slide, and there was something wrong on the slide. The numbers were off, and you just went in, clicked it, deleted it, and moved it, and then you put something else in place. And I was like, you know, how am I going to do that? Like, I don't know how to do any of this. I barely manage to get on the Zoom every day.
So let me ask you this: Do you get any kind of a feeling whatsoever from the little bit of time you have been able to spend that on this topic, right? Don't ask me about mixing drinks. I mean, I just barely learned how to make a Manhattan, and don't make me.
I don't make drinks. I don't drink. I just own a bar.
Okay.
But,
so would you agree on this topic? On this topic, that I kind of sort of know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I feel comfortable in the fact that you know what you're talking about, and I was comfortable with the fact that I'm going to learn a lot of stuff regardless of how much I can actually get done. Okay. See, I'm listening and learning, and I fully intend on obtaining properties and flipping. Well, I really want to flip properties. I just want to get properties. And
so let me ask you another question. How long have you known Alicia?
I don't know. I don't know.
Longer than you can remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you feeling kind of like, well, gee, if Alicia hangs out with Sherman and learns some stuff even above and beyond what she already knows, that she's going to be okay doing this flipping real estate thing? Do you feel comfortable about that?
I think Alicia's smart. She's going to be okay regardless. And I'm going to be okay regardless. I just want to know how to do this and other stuff.
So if Alicia comes back to you and says, listen, Ricardo, you know, I get it. You got the bar situation. You got to deal with that, man. You got to take care of that. Why don't we do this? I'm going to continue on. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to circle back to you. And when the time is right, I'm going to give you a chance to look over my shoulder and learn this business by watching me do what I learned from Sherman. Would that be okay?
Oh, yeah. We worked that out.
Okay. And if she said to you, Ricardo, here's the deal. I'm looking for a couple of investors to do some deals.
We talked about that months ago.
Okay. So as they say, it's all good.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
And what's going to happen
on my money is always good.
Yeah. And so what's going to happen is Alicia's just going to look at you in a slightly different way. She's not going to say, hey man, come to class with me so you can be a deal maker like me. She's going to start saying, hey man, as long as you can come to class whenever you can, but understand we were already talking about you being a partner in some of my deals. And if you come into class helps you get a better understanding of what I'm doing, then we achieve what we wanted to achieve.
So I'm going to be a deal maker. That's not even the thing that I told her was that at that point, once I fell behind, I realized, okay, well, I need to drop back and learn how to use a computer because I just need to. I don't want to be limping. I feel like I was limping. So I wasn't intending on abandoning at all. I was just like, okay, I got into something that I was ill prepared for. And I had just chalked it up as a loss. So I said, I'll get what I can get.
Can I make a suggestion? Because I don't want you to chalk it up as a loss. I don't want you to chalk it up as a loss. I don't think it is loss. I don't think it's a temporary loss. I'm just simply saying, if you're open to it, why not look at this as though, hey, the timing for me is not great right now because of the situation that I'm looking at, but I still want to do this. Alicia.
Well, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Alicia, you keep running And when you get to where you need to get to, don't forget to come back and get me, and let's go partner together. And I'll learn this by looking over your shoulder.
Well, whatever we can do from this point on.
See,
But at this point, I'm already in, so I'll just continue to get what I can get because I don't know what else I can do. At this point, I'm already in. You said that on the second day, you said if it might be a problem, you know, and then at that point, I was still at the belief, hey, you know what, I could fight my way back. But then afterwards, I was like, okay, well, you know, well, now it's the fourth day, and I was just like, well, all right, I'm just gonna have to get what I can get out of it because I can't go back.
Think of it this
So,
way.
you know,
Think of it this way. When you were in high school, did you do any sports?
no, I was kind of no.
You've always been a caveman. Is that what you telling me? Always been a caveman.
No, it wasn't that. My situation was complicated. I went to like 6 high schools, honestly.
Okay, I'm with
So
you. I'm
I
with
went
you.
to-
All right. So, but
I went to like
you
6
are
high
familiar with the track team and what the track team did.
Yeah.
Why don't we just look at it this way? Why don't we just look at this like a relay race?
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna take some skills that I've learned over the years, and I'm gonna hand the baton to Alicia. And Alicia's
Right.
gonna take that baton, and she's gonna do some things that she was not able to do before she became a part of Real Investors. But understood, she came to Real Investors knowing how to run. We just coached her how to run a little faster. And then
Right.
and then at some point she's gonna come back and get you and say, okay, man, now on some of this, I'm gonna hand the baton to you. And maybe that's the best way for you to learn real estate, as opposed to trying to stay pace in a situation where you really have some serious demands because you're looking at the survival of your business.
It ain't that I got serious demands. It's that I've unlearned how to manage my time.
Okay.
And I'm really bad at it. But you said something today, like, okay, well, you know, if it takes 42 days or 63 days, so I'm like, oh, bet it's on me now. So I wasn't worried in the beginning. I was just like, I'm going to get this. And my main reason for getting it is because I wanted to get something else that you mentioned. So
Okay.
I'm good. I see my man Ulysses Cooper right there. That's my man.
There you go.
So I got support within your group. You know what I mean? So
there you go.
But yeah, I'm gonna get it regardless because you got something else that I want. So you got other stuff up here in your head that I want to get to. So I'm gonna get it regardless. I just said I know what I have to do to be able to get it and actually put and implement it. And so
generally what I find is that all of us have a burning desire to be successful in real estate. And all of us have friends, family who are also interested in real estate, but for one reason or another, they're not able to make the same level of commitment that we are. And to the degree that we know people who are interested, but they can't make it, it's okay for us to be the deal maker in that group and let them come along with us on our real estate journey by letting them look over our shoulder. And from time to time, checking in and saying, hey, is this good? Are you learning something? Yeah. Okay. I need some money to be able to go do another deal. Can you help me out? Can you be a part of my real estate investor journey by helping me to fund some of my deals? And when folks are approached the right way, and they have a certain comfort level of, yeah, you know what you're doing, and yeah, you're getting good training, and yeah, you got a support network to be able to pull this thing off, then it becomes that much easier for folks to go ahead and write a check and go, what you need? 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. Okay, I don't have 20, but I can give you 15. And to a large degree, Ricardo, what you represent is exactly the part of our team that represents those private investors. Your
but that's
story,
what I do, believe it or not. I believe it or not, I'm an electrician and I've been doing that for over 25 years. And yes, I own a bar, but currently the way that I get most of my money is that I loan people money, but not like y'all, but I loan people money. So, you know, that's where I get my money. And that's why I really just get up and do what I want every day. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough that I don't have to go to work. And I really haven't worked in like 5 months. But which has not served me well at all, because I've become the most inefficient that I've been in my entire life. And
are you okay with it?
No, I'm not. I'm
okay,
very
well,
upset
then we can have a conversation about getting unokay with it and fixing it. But as long as you're okay with it, you just keep on doing what you're doing. But the point I'm making is that all of us are going to come across people who say they want to be a part of real estate, but when they realize what needs to be done for one reason or another, they're going to start asking, is there some other role I can play? And the smartest thing we can do is exactly what Alicia's doing, which is to say, hey, come on in and let's talk about it, and then figure out a way to craft a private investor role or a partner role, or a, hey, maybe as you're just walking around and going through life, you may hear of somebody who wants to get rid of some real estate. I'll be happy to float you a couple of bills if you wind up, bird dogging an opportunity to me or two. And that's how we build out our real estate team. Some of the parts of our real estate team are going to be, the title company, the hard money lender, the real estate agent, those sort of quote unquote professionals. And other parts of our team are going to be folks like Ricardo, somebody who's interested in the business, but for one reason or another, I don't want to be right there shoulder to shoulder, but I'll be right there looking over your shoulder and understanding that difference. Got it?
All right. Well, I feel bad for the rest of the class, man. I'm good though. I appreciate y'all. I wasn't giving up though anyway. So it was, I was just like, it's gonna come around.
Ricardo, you got nothing to feel bad about. You gave me an opportunity to do what my mom calls a teachable moment. I think a lot of people have aha moments because a lot of folks know folks like you, Ricardo, and they're not even thinking about them as a part of their real estate team. And you gave us a clear-cut example of how we can go out and find some private investors. Now, again, the focus of this class is getting deals done, and we will talk about how to structure a private investor relationship, but that's not the focus of the class. But we're going to circle back and have this conversation before the class is over, including how to actively cultivate relationships with folks like Ricardo. So I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you being a part of this conversation, this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and your input.
All right, guys. I told you we're going for an hour. We'll be going for 2, 3. So we are going to wrap this up because this was supposed to be a light night, not a heavy night. And I know some of you guys still have some homework to do. So who's got questions before we bring closure to this? Anybody?
Yeah, thanks for taking one more question, Sherman. Hi.
Hey, Ken, hold on one second.
I had, and I'm not even.
Ken, hold on one second.
Okay.
Ricardo, I don't know if you're able to see the comments, but there's a whole lot of people giving you some love right now, Ricardo. Folks talking about this is exactly the group for you. We're glad you're here. Thank you for participating. So don't feel, I don't want you feeling bad for a split second about anything. We appreciate the fact that you're here, and we appreciate the fact that we were able to talk about your situation honestly and openly. So thank you. All right.
Well, thank everybody. I love you all.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ken, now what you got, man? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, well, I was saying I'm not even a realtor, but I just found the information you were sharing very interesting. And what I wanted to ask, you were talking about the broker setting the rules for his or her own house.
Yes.
But for a broker to maybe say that they don't want their agents to submit certain offers, wouldn't that be in violation of COMAR? So would that mean they have just chosen to not be compliant? And if that is the case, are there possible consequences for that?
So the answer to your question is, yes, there are some brokers who specifically tell their agents, and yes, there are agents who will tell the buyer's agent, I'm not going to submit your offer because it's a lowball offer. They do it all the time. Is it a violation? Absolutely. Is it a violation of the law? Absolutely. What happens when that happens? Typically, I get on the phone with that agent, or I get on the phone with that agent's broker, or I have one of my agents get on the phone with them and say, you do understand that COMAR 17, I think it's 17-503. When we get to that section of the class next week, I'll actually have it in front of me. It's on the slide. But what we say, okay, you do understand that your failure to submit a written offer is against the law, in which case 99.9% of them submit the offer. Now, if it's their listing, which sometimes it is, they're like, well, I'm not interested in that offer. Well, then just say that. Just get off your high horse with the whole lowball offer. I'm not submitting in lowball offers. I'm not going to consider lowball offers, because in the first instance, you're nothing but a bird dog anyway. It's not your property. You don't own it. You're just representing the seller. Put the offer in front of the seller and let the seller decide. That's why the law is written that way. But more importantly, and as we get into the lessons for the next couple of days, we don't need to get too wrapped around the axle of, is the agent doing their job or doing what they're supposed to do or not doing what they're supposed to do. We really just need to dig deep in terms of us knowing what's supposed to happen. And quite frankly, I call it a hack. We're going to hack the Board of Realtor system, knowing full well that they have to present all offers in a way that we can get maximum efficiency out of what we do, because we don't need to go visit 100 properties to submit one offer. That's what most people do when they go to buy a house. You understand that? When most people go to buy a house, they go look at 10 houses and write an offer on one. We ain't doing that. We're writing offers knowing full well that the offers have to be submitted. And then we're waiting for the sellers to come back and say, can you give me a better offer, before we get out of the car or get out of the house and get in the car to go meet the contractor to start looking at houses. It's a hack. And again, I don't want to get too far into tomorrow's lesson without doing a recap of the previous lesson. But what we're basically going to be doing, and what I'm going to be teaching you, and that's how we can get deals done in 21 days, is we're going to hack the system. We're going to make an existing system that has specific rules work for us, as opposed to what most people do when they approach a real estate agent. And it has proven time and time and time again as one of the fastest and most efficient ways to get yourself in the house buying business. Much more efficient than going after FSBOs, much more efficient than going after short sales, and certainly more efficient than putting out bandit signs. What I'm gonna show you guys, and quite frankly, the reason why we start there is because it's the easiest thing to put on autopilot. If you're going into an existing system with existing rules, existing ways of doing business, and existing agreements that are all boilerplate, all you got to do is figure out how the system works and then turn around and hand it over to somebody else to do 90% of the work, so you get to keep 90% of the profits. And then you can go on and do some of those other things. That's what I'm going to teach you starting tomorrow. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. Today was supposed to be a recap, not a new thing. Tomorrow, we will parse out the appropriate amount of time to take this step by step and spend an entire week talking about how to generate quick cash by basically hacking an existing system that 80% of all real estate transactions go through, but they do it in a backwards fashion. And we're going to hack it and make it work for us. 80%, 80% of all single family houses that get sold in America go through the MLS. That's where we're going to go in and hack the MLS to get some deal flow coming our way before we tackle any other way of finding properties. Okay? Does that help?
Okay, thanks.
You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, if there's no other, I said I'm gonna go for an hour, and here you guys got me. You guys, this is your fault. I had no slides tonight other than the review slides. So if it's anybody's fault that we went for 3 hours tonight, it's not Sherman's. I just want that on the record. All right, but I will take one more. As anybody does have sort of a burning, I need to ask you this, because this is gonna help me get my homework done from the previous week. Feel free to ask me now. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap this up.
I have a quick question, Sherman.
Yes, Frank.
On that resident agent agreement.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you remember offhand the lines, but I don't know if this is going to be clear. It's probably blurry.
A little bit.
Yeah, just line 2 and 3. It just says the current.
Wait. Does that have anything to do with Suite 105?
Yes.
Don't even bother to ask me. I have no clue what it says. Talk to Lisa. Now, how's that for delegating?
Okay, there you go.
When it comes to Suite 105, I don't even know what's in the agreement because I've delegated it to Lisa.
Okay, I'll give her a quick email. I wanted to make sure I put the proper thing on line 2. That's all.
Are you guys learning something right here and right now? When you can get to the place that somebody else does 90% of the work, but you keep 90% of the profit, even on $150, then you are acting as a real estate entrepreneur and a real estate investor. But if every time somebody has a question of you, question for you, and you have to stop what you're doing and answer it, then you're doing 100% of the work for something less than 100% of the money. This, my friends, right here, right now, is what I call a teachable moment. Frank is asking me a question about a legal agreement that I don't even know what the darn thing says because I've never read it in my life. How come Sherman's never read it? Because he delegated that task to Lisa before we even set up Suite 105. But I get to keep 90% of the money. Are you getting it? When you start running your affairs that way, kind of what Ricardo said. Don't ask me how to make drinks. I don't know how to make drinks. I just own the bar. Are you guys getting it? And look, it doesn't really matter whether you're talking about real estate, owning a bar. Howard Johnson walked in the door. He had a business changing out auto glass. There's a certain mindset that goes with running businesses successfully. Unfortunately, most real estate agents and most real estate investors never develop that mindset. What we have been doing for the past week and what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks fundamentally is about running a business. It just happens to be a real estate business. But if you apply the techniques I'm sharing with you and attempting to impart on you, you can use it to run any business you want. It doesn't have to be just a real estate business. There are many businesses that I'm involved. I'm still involved in the aviation business. Aviation business puts a big chunk of money in my pocket every single year. When's the last time I stepped foot on the base and saw an airplane? 15 months? Sherman, you're getting checks and you don't even go to the office anymore? That's kind of the plan, isn't it? To get checks and not have to go to the office? Because if I can get checks and not have to go to the office, I can be anywhere in the world, including on a beach, and the check still shows up. Does anybody like that idea? All right, that's what we're really doing. We just happen to be using real estate as a platform to make that happen, okay? All right, guys, I'm gonna let Frank have the last word. See you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Ricardo. Appreciate all of you, Alicia. See you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Get your homework done before we come to class tomorrow so that you're all caught up and we can start fresh on week 2. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.